not be silenced in a world that seems to be going deaf to the real truth. With your support, we will be able to become an even bigger pillar of light in a dark world.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the number one listener-supported radio station on the planet. Revolution Radio.
Be evasive, but that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth as opposed to fiction.
And Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came, and also the daughters of men, indicating that there were giants before the Nephilim.
And sons of God, plural. They weren't talking about Jesus coming down.
No, that's right, yeah.
I'm Steve Crawford, host of Factor Theory Live. Join me every Sunday night from 10 p.m. till midnight Eastern Standard Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Check it out.
We did not engage in conflict that was out of line with our mission.
Is it disloyalty? Is it sedition? Is it treason to oppose the hands of tyranny? Never!
I will never send troops anywhere on a mission of that kind without telling them that if somebody shoots at them, they can darn well shoot back.
I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty! Oh, give me death!
A dark cloud is finally lifting across the world as U.S. military intelligence and their global partners are destroying the deep state criminal power structure that has ruled over our planet for hundreds of years.
We are free with the God-given right, and we shall not yield that right to any power on earth.
Hi, I'm Scott McKay. The world is at, and I am your host on The Tipping Point on Revolution Radio, where every Monday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, we bring you the latest in this ensuing takedown of this global criminal empire.
That's an image of strength.
You'll get the raw hard truth here on The Tipping Point. So come join us Mondays, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern in Studio B at revolution.radio.
All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
Hey, what is up, everybody? We are live, Celebrate Truth Radio. I am not Robbied Davidson. I am hijacking Celebrate Truth tonight. This is a special Take on the World 2020 edition of Celebrate Truth Radio. We've got an unbelievable lineup for you guys tonight. We've got, first up, we've got from the duo Flat Out Insights, we've got Michael Solomon in the house. We've got, of course, the host of Celebrate Truth Radio. We've got Robbied Davidson. We've got the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Rob Skiba. And of course, returning to Celebrate Truth, and I made this happen for here tonight, Pastor Nate Wolf. Welcome everybody to the call tonight.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, good to be here.
Thanks.
Well, Robbie, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you so much for allowing Take on the World 20 to be airing on Celebrate Truth all weekend long. It's been absolutely amazing. The chat's been great. The presentations have been great. It's been running, pretty much flawless the whole entire time. So, Robbie, thank you so much.
Oh man, it's a real privilege and honor. When you came to me and asked me, I thought it would be just an amazing opportunity to help in this way. I know that you were wanting me to do a presentation this year, and for me, it's almost like I feel like I'm called to the backstage now, behind the scenes. So to me, it was just a perfect way that I could help out, on that end, instead of doing a presentation or being on the forefront. It just seems like I'm taking a bit of a pivot now. God wants me to just transition a little bit and change focus, but definitely still remain in ministry and definitely supporting those that I think are doing just an incredible job on the front lines of this war on truth.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And if everybody out there, if you guys want to stay up to date with the full schedule, what's going on, we still have 2 more days left of Take on the World 2020. We have all Sunday, and then we have half day on Monday. So you can go to TOTW20 TOTW20conference.com and go right over to the speaker section. There's a place for the schedule. You can still see that lineup. Just jump right in the live chat the rest of this weekend and into Monday. We've got Rob Skiba ending the conference on Monday night. So it's going to be absolutely amazing. So still so much great content is left. So if you've missed it, here's your chance still to pick right up, right from scratch, right there. And we're going to be running it right back on Celebrate Truth all next week. It's going to run on a loop, so you'll be able to check that out. And also the presentations will be uploaded to the speakers channel as well as over at Take on the World TV. So plenty of opportunity for you guys to do that. So guys, I figure, what we're going to do, everybody in the chat, I want you guys to think of a few questions by the end of the show. We're going to take some random questions for this panel. Every year at Take on the World, we line up all the speakers. Obviously, we couldn't do that here this year. So we went with a small crew, and normally we get to answer all your questions that you may have. So this year we're still going to do a little bit of that at the end of the show tonight. But right now we're just going to talk about hot topics, what's going on out in the world. So anybody want to start? Robbie, do you have anything right off your bat that you want to start out with?
Well, I'm just saying that so much is happening. I think we're all in agreement that things are moving incredibly fast as far as the pace that they're going now. I was reading some stuff on the Great Reset, and it looks like they're looking at capitalizing on this opportunity to transform not only the world, but specifically America. And, in order for the New World Order, all these things that we've been researching for years, one thing that we've all known, that U.S. was always a hindrance. There was just too much liberty. There was too many, the Constitution was a problem. In order to kind of, fulfill any plans, in my opinion, America is kind of a stronghold that needs to be taken down. And we're seeing it come so quickly. It's unbelievable. I mean, it blows my mind how amazing everything is just transitioning. I mean, with everything from the coronavirus to just everything that we're seeing now with the riots, Marxism, communism. If you start looking at the kind of the end game here, it's frightening. I don't want to get political, but I have to say, though, that, if Trump does not win, it is going to be hell on earth, especially in America. What they're going to do is going to be just incredible. It's beyond words, really. Sometimes I look at the thing and I say, wait a minute, are we really living in this world? A year ago, we were all thinking that, we might be getting close to the end times. I think a lot of us now are saying, listen, man, it's almost like, the birth pains. It's almost like the water has broken. And now everything is escalating at a rapid pace. We're seeing things that we wouldn't even believe were possible to take place in America. I mean, I'm watching this stuff a lot. I watched just the recent thing with the Kenosha shooter. I watched that live. I saw how that all went down. And he, of course it was self-defense, but I'm seeing how this is kind of taking over in different cities. And, if nothing is done, if people don't rise up, and I'm not calling for violence, but I'm saying our voices need to be heard. The cancel culture is trying to silence us. It's trying to scare us and losing our jobs, losing our friends. And I mean, being on the front lines with the truth community, we all have to understand that we really are truly at war. And there's a lot at stake. I don't think we've ever seen something more at stake than in 2020.
Yeah, definitely. I had a thought earlier today that it just kind of blew me away with all the division that's being pushed. And I can't remember which movie this was. It was one of the Batman movies, I think. But there was, one of the villains or whatever had planted some bombs in different areas. And one of them was on this boat that was out on the water. And there was hundreds of people in this boat. And basically they were trying to pit, these two groups of people. And they gave each of them, a detonator. And they said, look, whoever pushes that detonator first is gonna be alive, because these guys got a detonator, you got a detonator, and you got to make a decision, right? And there was that tension of, do you trust your fellow man? Do you even trust your fellow American? And I don't know why, but that movie came to my mind, and I just felt like, that's what the powers that be are trying to do right now. They're giving everybody a detonator and saying, hey, if you don't, push that button, your neighbor's going to blow you up.
Yeah, and I can see that clearly. One of the parts that has amazed me is how easily people are accepting what they call the new normal, which is actually the new abnormal. They're even totally embracing the new language, the nomenclature that they're using to market this huge change. And the part that surprises me the most is the way people are just bending over, especially the churches. The churches are completely giving in, no fight, no research, no struggle. They aren't even asking questions. They have just given in to the new state god, the Coronaism god. And they have switched their allegiances. Now, mind you, they were weak to begin with. That's why they shut down without question. I've actually known a couple of churches that never shut down, not one day. No one accosted them, no one attacked them. And I asked one pastor, I said, why did you never shut down? He said, because Jesus didn't tell me to. I said, dude, when is your service? I am there. So, and also the part that surprises me too is that, yeah, wearing a mask is extremely important not to do so. It is a clear attack on everything about us, our health, our identity, and everything. But this is all a distraction to keep us away from the other stuff that they're trying to do behind closed doors. But also with the school system, they are targeting our children big time. The hell that these kids are going to go through when these schools finally open up for real is going to be crazy, and the parents are just giving their kids over.
Speaking of which, I don't know if you guys have seen the BLM curriculum from basically grade 1 up to high school. If you thought the LGBT agenda was horrifying, wait till you see what the kids are going to be learning in the BLM, curriculum that they're going to be putting in a lot of schools. It's frightening. I just saw a report on it last night. It was horrifying what they're going to be teaching children.
And can I make one comment about BLM? There are actually two organizations called BLM. There's one organization that we are all aware of. They have the big, giant, pretty buses and the crazy people who create a whole ton of chaos. Then there's a smaller version, much smaller, and they are the original. The big version is the counterfeit version. The smaller version are a group of moms who suffered the death of their children on the streets, and they just wanted to bring to light urban violence. And so they did a hashtag Black Lives Matter. Okay. The liberals who support homosexuality, chaos, and a bunch of other stuff, occultic stuff, they got a hold of the name because it is kind of a cool name and ran with it. They ended up getting a lot of corporate funding because all the money that they have is not from grassroots, people just donating to them. They're being funded by corporate interest, and they just ran with it. But there's actually two organizations like that. And the only reason I know that is because my company is trying to increase the marketing of the original organization. My wife know the two people who started it personally. So we're trying to spread that out there.
Hijacked. Yep,
totally hijacked.
Imagine that.
Yep.
Yeah, clearly. Rob, what about you? What with everything you're seeing there lately?
Well, first of all, I agree with everything you guys have been saying, and I've been so frustrated with the Christian response to a lot of it. Like, there's a Christian Post article, I don't know if you guys saw it, 2,700 evangelicals warn against politicizing coronavirus, urge Christians to take the virus. Take vaccine, sorry.
Yeah, take the vaccine, yeah.
700 evangelical leaders saying, Christians, we should take the vaccine. I'm like, and it wasn't that long ago. I mean, maybe even last year that I was saying, I'll probably die of old age before Christ comes back. And before that, I want to say, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, I was saying that I had my eye on the window of time between 2028 and not trying to set dates or anything, just kind of looking at the signs of the times. Sure. Between 2028, 2033 and 34 looked very interesting, and couldn't see beyond 2045, frankly. And there was a time even before that I used to say I couldn't see past 2020. So here we are in 2020. But when I look at like the strategic social initiative of 2045, and this is long before all of the craziness that we're seeing right now. There was behind the scenes craziness going on with transhumanism and the push for a quest for immortality, we would say parenthetically apart from Christ, by the year 2045. And it's all about transhumanism and modifying ourselves and everything like that. So, when I was in that camp and looking at all that kind of research, I'm like, man, things are going to get, I was saying, when I came off the pre-trib rapture page, like, look, guys, we may be seeing a lot of stuff. We may be here for at least another 20 years, and I'm not going to tell you those 20 years are going to be pleasant. Here's what's going to happen. And, and then the more I started to dig, the more I started to think, there's still a lot that needs to happen. And that's why I started saying, I'll probably die of old age before Christ returns. And then 2020 hit. And then I'm like, and like just the first 3 months of 2020, like the amount of things that happened, well, let's say by April, it happened so fast that I was going, wow, okay, well, all the things that I was thinking was going to take a lot longer, I started to see how quickly all those things could happen. And the fact that the whole world is locked down right now as a result of something that is barely a step above a common cold. Yes, I've got friends. I actually do know people who allegedly have this Corona C19, right? They were diagnosed as that. One of them is a real good friend of mine, and he just texted me. He just got released from the hospital on Thursday, and almost killed him. And I have other friends that said they lost loved ones or whatever due to it. Now, I remain a bit skeptical because it seems like in the year 2020, there's nothing else causing death anywhere on Earth. Dude got hit by a bus, then got ran over by 14 cars, and then dogs ate him. Cause of death, COVID-19.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm aware of several people that have gone into the hospital with pneumonia. Right? They were literally diagnosed with pneumonia, but then they were tested. They were positive for COVID, and when they left there, it wasn't pneumonia. Right?
Yeah. I remain very skeptical about all. I do believe there's something causing people to get sick, but I mean, even in recent times, most of us here are probably familiar with a lot of the research that's coming to light that says you can't catch a virus. Your body produces viruses to clean out foreign substances. So my question is, okay, if that's true, and I've seen a lot of very compelling stuff on that. It's new to me. I'm not a doctor, so all I could do is evaluate the information that's presented and say, okay, well, that's interesting. Then what is the pathogen that has been released that is causing this internal response? If we can't catch viruses, but people are getting this new strain of something, whatever it is, that's causing this respiratory issues, then what is that something? What is causing? And, for a while there, a lot of people were pointing to 5G, and I think, well, 5G certainly is compromising our immune system. There's no question about that. Is it the cause of COVID-19? I'm not prepared to say either way. I'm just looking at the information saying, well, I mean, it's interesting. But, I watched Dr. Alfonso's presentation earlier. When was it? Yesterday, I think. Talking about the SIT, the Satanic whatever instituted technology or something. I forget what it was. What reference
weaponized
was,
pathogens.
Yeah, weaponized pathogens that he's like, we've already got them, and I can believe that. I really can. I've been on a crusade to expose chemtrails practically since the late 90s. I remember, prior to like 1997, like, wow, clear blue skies, fluffy clouds. After about 97, it was crisscross, checkerboards in the sky. And when I moved to Texas, it was like every day, and you could, like clockwork, literally, you could bank on it from, they start spraying about 4:30 and 3 o'clock or so in the afternoon. And by 7 o'clock, the sky's a milky, nasty slime of gunk. Right. And whatever is up there always affected me heavily. Like my Robbie knows, we went on a trip together to Colorado. I'm like, dude, I got issues. I would start hacking my brains out. And what's amazing to me is God more or less took that away from me right before this COVID thing happened, and I thank Him for it, because now I can actually go into a store without coughing, because God forbid you cough or sneeze in a store now. So anyway, all that to say, I'm having to rethink a lot of things. And then meanwhile, I've got a whole bunch of my friends on Facebook trying to say there is going to be no tribulation period. It all happened in 70 AD. You got the whole preterist amillennialism thing spiking, going through the roof on social media right now. It seems like how can you guys say that? I can go through Matthew 24 and Luke 21 and get to a point and say, yep, I can see how that happened in 70 AD. But then I get that, I'm like, nope. And then from that point on, and just like with biblical cosmology, you can't take the Bible literally anymore. Like, I swear, I don't believe in the Mandela effect, but if there's anything that convinces me that there is a Mandela effect, it would be this.
Yeah.
I was with everybody I knew telling me to take the Bible literally my whole life. Yeah. And then, like, the last 5 years, no, you're an idiot if you take the Bible literally. I'm going, wow. I mean, because you have to basically allegorize the entire book of Revelation, and it's make it up as you go symbolism with no cipher, so you get to engage in private interpretation. I'm like, okay, I believe this all happened in 70 AD. Explain to me what the symbol is of the bottomless pit opening and 200 million chimeric horsemen coming out and stinging people for 5 months, and 4 angels coming out and wiping out 1/3 of mankind. Ready, set, go. Tell me how the Romans did that.
I personally don't think, though, that we're ever, because I think everyone here on the panel can agree that we're not going to be taking the vaccine. And I think there's a lot of people out there that really aren't anti-vaxxers, and they're saying, whoa, I'm not taking this thing. This is like what's it called? Operation Hyperdrive, or So what I'm saying is it's warp speed or whatever. It's coming out so incredibly quickly that there's a lot of people that are going to be reserved. I think you're going to be surprised at how many people aren't taking the vaccine when it comes out, specifically because it's been rushed, and they've rushed through the whole safety protocols, and they're pushing this thing out. But I personally think that international travel, as far as getting on a plane, we might remember that as the olden days. We might be telling our children there was a time when we could just get on a plane and travel to another country. I don't believe that we'll ever be able to fly to another country without the vaccine. I don't know where you guys are at, but I mean, people don't like when I say it, but Chris is like, oh, don't say that when I say I'm probably never going to see you again. In the sense that I don't think that we're going to be able to international travel. Case in point, Australia, they said when the vaccine is out, you're not going to be able to fly within the country. So someone in Perth can't fly to Sydney. They're actually going to be so strict that they're going to say nobody can fly anywhere within our country. Forget about international travel. These are sobering thoughts, gentlemen, as we go and we move forward. That right now, do you realize that you can't leave your country right now? Everyone was all worried about the wall and people blocking the borders. Realize right now, you're trapped in your country. I'm trapped in my country. Isn't that incredible to think that this is all moving forward, and yet we don't realize that all this stuff is all being put into place, and it's already cemented. Now it's on to the next agenda. They've already cemented you in your own country.
Well, they've even got people concerned, about going to another state. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I went to the men's retreat in Indiana last month, I was like, well, I got to go to Indiana. And then I'm like, snap out of it, Nate. Like, you're going to Indiana. It's at a congregation in the middle of a cornfield. There's not going to be anybody bothering you over there, But it just shocked me that I even had a moments of hesitation. I'm like, this is America, man. And people are concerned about, going into the next state. Like, am I going to be able to come back? What's going to happen?
And they're already starting to do that within some states. Nate, it's a good point. I mean, they are starting to say that don't come
quarantine.
Yeah. So I think, we haven't even got into the second wave. That guaranteed is coming. Isn't it interesting how no children are getting coronavirus, and then they all start going back to school, and now all the kids are getting it. Now the colleges, everyone's getting it now, and these are the young people that weren't really getting it and suffering. Now they're starting to suffer and get it. So it just seems like this whole playbook is moving forward. But here's the thing: if they don't have Trump to basically have all of their hate towards, if Trump is not there, who do you think that hate is coming towards? Right? Everyone's kind of looking like, oh, yeah, they're pretty angry right now, but they hate Trump so much. Rob brought this up. And wherever you stand on this, they absolutely hate Trump. Seething hate. I mean, you see it from Pope. You see it from the Queen. You see it pretty much international, other countries. Look at other countries, the way they talk about Trump. It's unbelievable, like New Zealand or Australia or wherever. They hate Trump.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing we can all agree on. The question is, though, what happens if that case and scenario is not there? Now, I personally do believe that moving forward, Trump will take it as long as
There's rioting and there's looting and people are getting beat up in the streets. The silent majority are not going to take it, which that might be the blessing in disguise, that they're actually allowing this to go too far, and it's going to prolong this whole New World Order, in my opinion. It's going to slow it down. But there's no doubt in my mind, you want to see hyperdrive. If Trump doesn't win and they get the majority, I'm telling you, it's a frightening proposition to see what's coming.
Well, it's almost scary either way. I mean, Sheila and I were just talking about this the other night. It's like, it's almost a, no-win scenario, because if he wins, then it's more of what we got. They'll probably just go even more crazy.
The question is, will he shut it down, Rob? The question is he waiting until he can put the Insurrection Act in?
It is a good question. I mean, no question, if he doesn't make another 4 years, the alternative is unthinkable, frankly. I mean,
let's say he does the Insurrection Act, and only for these certain cities that are out of control. I'm not talking federally. He just says, nope, this is out of control. I'm coming into New York, and I'm cleaning house with the military. I think most of us would be, if it was sectional like that, and we already know it's out of control, would we have a problem with him calling the Insurrection Act and completely taking control of some of these out of control Democrat cities?
I think most Americans would be happy.
I think so. So
it's civil war. I mean,
correct.
It's a scenario.
I think that's coming either way, though. I honestly believe that is coming either way. Do you think anyone is going to accept the election results either side this year?
No, either way.
We're moving towards civil war. There's no doubt. I mean, if anything, I would say it's a Cold War right now. I mean, it's moving towards that incredibly quickly, and I can't see a result. I say Trump wins. Awesome, guys. But you know how crazy it's going to become? They are going to go buck wild. They're going to go ballistic. Oh, they're going to go insane. They're going to go insane because they're going to go out of control. If 2016 was kind of a hint, now they've kind of started turning it violent. I mean, in 2016, they were just kind of like having temper tantrums. Remember? You're not my president, not my president. Remember? And they're all doing their little marches. But now it's violent. Now it's like take down the police. Now let's get violent and let's do this with all means necessary. And what's startling is it's the governors and mayors that are backing it. And they're saying, well, we got to do what we got to do. That's the crazy part of what's going on. Is not that there's a bunch of kids running around or these domestic terrorists. It's the fact that you've got governors and mayors that are like, thumbs up, city of peace. Let's have this whole, take over 6 city blocks, for 2 or 3 months. It's insane. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. I had some really good long conversations with John Gabrielson, who many people in this audience might know is a police officer. And especially with, all the riots and everything that's going on and the defund the police and everything. And I wanted to really get kind of his take on it. Like, what's going on? And we spent probably a good 3 or 4 hours talking. And there's a lot of things I just, frankly didn't know about how police work and what's the difference between, your local police, sheriff, or the Rangers, or the state police. Like, there's all these different factions of policing, and how that works and who reports to who. And one of the big takeaways that I had from that conversation was the absolute necessity to get involved on the local level politically. And like, I had pretty much sworn off the entire political system after doing my Babylon Rising research, and that was a mistake, I think. I still don't believe we have any say in presidents. I mean, there's just too much evidence that suggests that your votes are meaningless. You could do it if you want to, but people are installed. But I have still some measure of hope that we have some influence on the congressional and certainly on the local level. But what John was saying is like, listen, man, it's the city councils, it's the governors, it's the mayors. I mean, these are the things you need to get involved with. And when I took a look at what's happening in the world, and you just said it, Robbie, like what is the big problem here? It's exactly that. It's on the local level. And a lot of people want to blame Trump, but our government is set up such that the federal government's not supposed to interfere.
And he's been nothing but respectful. Say what you want about Trump, but he has not crossed that line. He's been very respectful to the Constitution that way.
And see, this is what people don't understand. On the left anyway, they don't understand that. I was watching a YouTube video on how it plays commercials and stuff, and there was something. It was a commercial for the Lincoln Project, I think it was called. And in the beginning of it, you're kind of in agreement with this, like, we, some of the things you guys already talked about. We used to be able to travel, we used to go to the beach, we used to be able to do this, and they show all the ways things used to be, and then showed how things are. And really to make you mad, like, I want to go back the way it used to be. And then the punchline of the commercial was, and it's all Trump's fault. We gotta and I'm like, oh my God, really? Like how completely out of your mind insane do you have to be to believe that? But tell a lie loud enough, long enough, and often enough, and people start believing it. That's the entire left media, mainstream media agenda, is to lay it all at his feet.
Yeah.
Well, I totally agree that you're more effective. The smaller the political venue, the more effective your vote will be. And I vote to this day because many people died for my right to do so. And so no matter what I feel about it, no matter how quite frankly, no matter how effective I feel it is, I'm going to vote. Now, I do agree, again, the smaller the political venue, the more effect your vote will have. And my wife is very politically inclined, and I've learned a lot from her in that regard. So I mean, I think that no matter how the election is going to go, the world is on a downward spiral, and we are closer to the end days than we've ever been before. And I know we've heard that before throughout history, but what's happening now is truly unprecedented. The foolishness that's going on now has never happened before, and that's a clear indication that we're close to the end.
You can see a lot of similarities actually with Germany. And I mean, if you follow the timeline and how they established, who were the enemies and what they were doing, and they were the ills of society. And if you study that playbook, we're moving along very, like they say, history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. And it's true. I mean, we are seeing the playbook. But again, what's interesting is look at the timeline. We're not talking 2 or 3 years. We're talking a good decade. I mean, these things still take time to transition everyone. They need a new generation to raise up. They don't really care about the old people. They're going to die off. That's why they're going after the children, because they get to a certain saturation point. The children, this is just all they know. I mean, when all of a sudden in grade 3, they're going out there and they're, doing protests for racial, inequalities. And I mean, when you start seeing the media, we always talk about the media, but now it's infected everything. The sports, I mean, all the sport teams carrying on, especially about that last shooting. I mean, the guy, have you looked at his rap sheet? And have you looked at the story? It doesn't matter anymore, though. George Floyd, all of a sudden, all the camera surfaces, and we see that he was having a total trip on drugs. And he's like, I can't breathe. Well before there was anything, happening. Again, it was still a despicable act. But my point is, it doesn't matter what goes on. The next event will happen. They're going to move forward with this agenda and then move towards the children. So I just see this, playing out. But the good news, I guess, in ways, is it doesn't happen rapidly. A lot of people think, oh, yep, we're coming around the corner. I mean, Rob mentioned it before. I mean, how many times in a Christian walk have we been like, oh, man, no way, 5 more years. There's no way 10 more years, right? We're going to see some pretty crazy stuff. But understand that we have to be the light in that darkness. He has a purpose for us to be here and to go through that. And number 2 is, remember that we've always been talking about how bad, let's just say, America was as far as depravity, its morals. In order for that to happen, if God truly was blessing it at a certain point, which I think there's a lot of proof to show that there was blessings on America overall with a lot of countries, if he takes that away, they might have to come under serious slavery, serious oppression. I mean, it happens to his people all the time. Therefore, it might have to happen to us. The question is, though, are we not going to prevail in that situation? They did with the Egyptians, and we will again, but we might have to go through some serious time. So I look at, we've got a lot more time left, but there's no doubt that I think that the things that are moving are set in motion. I don't think they're going to be reversed. I think it's going to be a sign of judgment, a wake up. It's all of a sudden like, fine, okay, you wanted to go this route, because we do know there's a big problem with the church. And just because there's the remnant out there screaming from the rooftops and saying, look at the church is all evil. They're not. Look at John MacArthur, Grace Community. I mean, have you seen him standing up? He's been standing up completely against, at all odds against the California government. And they have been suing him left, right, and center, trying to get him shut down. And he's still standing up for his rights. So there are some good, churches. There are some good people out there. But I definitely think that we're moving into those days that aren't going to be the same. The new normal will never come back. And this phase in history, in the history books, a transition will take place in 2020. And things will never be the same. But they will also be at a point where a lot of our, luxuries, a lot of just what we took for granted, I think are going to be taken away. And we're going to reflect, and we're going to know what's important and what our purpose is here in the end times. I think we all can agree that we clearly are in the end times. With that said, I don't mean like we only have 2 or 3 years left. I mean that maybe the water has broken, and now the contractions, the birth pains are about to get more intense and closer together like we've never seen.
Yeah, definitely. And, in the chat, I think it was Aaron Sampson was mentioning about the elderly, with the whole COVID thing, being an attack on the elderly. And you look at what happened with the nursing homes, and you look at, what happened with older people who were already, compromised with different health, situations in New York, and so many people in that age range are the ones that were really suffering, because of this, and then back to the whole church situation, they really, I think, prepped us with all this social media. Like, I mean, the church that fired me in 2018, I drive by it almost every day because I bought a house on the same avenue where the church building was, and their sign for months has basically just said, "Come visit us on Facebook." And I'm thinking, okay, maybe for someone who's shut in, they can get some encouragement somehow there. But I mean, it's really just, if churches are satisfied with saying, "Hey, come see us on our social media platform," I mean, really think about that. I mean, I'm not trying to sound pessimistic. I'm just saying that I think everybody on this panel would agree with me. Relationships are key, right, for humans. And you can only have so much relationship through social media. I mean, it is a blessing in many ways. And I know most of us truther folks would say, yeah, I'd definitely have gone crazy if I didn't have my online family the last 5 months. But what I'm trying to say is that it's really made most churches impotent and unable, to offer that relationship. And that's a scary thing.
So will they go under refinement? Will they be tried? I guess that's my point. The good news is that we're going to see a lot of purification come from some really bad, backslidden, worldly churches. I think that's what the point is. That's what God does over and over with his people. They get wayward, they fall away, they do all sorts of craziness. And what does he usually do? He disciplines those he loves. So I think that we're going to go through a massive amount of discipline like we've never seen overall. And we can say, well, wait a minute, I was okay. It's not my fault this church was doing this. But I think as a whole, the church thrives the most under persecution. That's a pure fact. I mean, we see this all the time, that when the revivals happen, they're usually done under persecution. That's why I believe we could be headed that way, which America, really, if you think about it, America has never really suffered true persecution as far as Christianity is concerned, in my opinion.
Well, Robbie, let's look at this. When it comes to the American church, one, it is the least persecuted church other than within the realms of atheism and social media bullying or something, right? Or maybe some LGBTQ protest outside the church.
Sure.
Look at what the early church did when they had to have underground churches where eventually they were being rounded up, they were being imprisoned for simply preaching the gospel, right? We have no clue what it's like to do that. That is why we have accepted all their marching orders, and why it's going to be so easy for them to eventually come and say, you can't preach the gospel. You can't do this. You can't do this.
Yeah.
No more of this.
They're going to catch the church off guard. The church doesn't know what's coming, and that's why they're not particularly attacking full force the church yet. They're kind of distracting with white men, and they're doing all the stuff, but they're going to completely do a 180 and come hard at the church at a certain point when they're totally off guard, in my opinion. And that's my point, is that, it's coming. There's no doubt about it. It's just not here yet. I mean, we see a little bit, like you said, Chris, but it's not full force. We have to start burning churches. It's coming.
Yeah, it can get a lot worse.
It's going to. I mean, look at any Marxist or communist revolutions. If you look what they do, the church has to go. But I think this is very subtle, where they're not allowing the church to know exactly how much under threat they are. It's under safety right now. And you watch when all of a sudden they've got kind of their agenda set, they're going to move full force, because the church is definitely a bedrock. It's something that is a major threat to them.
For those who are willing to see it, though, this moment is being used by the Holy Spirit to separate the wheat from the chaff, to show those who are willing to see what churches are really, truly Christ-based, and those who are just playing a game, or they're just a club.
Yeah.
Country.
Okay.
You can't even be a coward and leave your country. I mean, think about it that way. God got to a certain point that even if you wanted to be a coward and run away because you don't want to deal with it, you're going to have to deal with it. So you got to pick a side. You can't sit on the fence anymore. You got it either hot nor cold, or I'd spit you out of my mouth. But it's going to force everyone to become either one way or the other. There is no in between.
Yep.
I think we're going to find out really quickly. Everybody's talking about how this is so political. Well, and you guys have mentioned that we're going to find out really quickly if Trump wins, who he is.
Yeah, 2 months.
We're going to find out who he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's look at what's happening all around the world. Everybody wants to forget and pretend that Wuhan did not have their large, massive music festival where life is semi getting back to complete normality with some exceptions. They're out there, no masks, not social distancing, partying like it's 1999, and they've got no cares in the world. If you look up the stats on how many were protesting in Berlin today, the numbers are all across the board. But I mean, on the high end, I saw somewhere around 50,000 people, they're not putting up with this any longer. We're starting to see this all around the world start to look much different as the masks of what they're trying to do, pun intended, starts to come off, and we actually see what the agenda, what the end game of that they have in place here. So we're going to find out real quickly is if Trump wins. Well, we already know if Biden gets in what the agenda is according to coronavirus, mask mandates. Well, he's already made that clear what the agendas will be. We will now see where this next realm takes it. If Donald Trump gets in and he continues this when the rest of the world is starting to see behind this lie. As we continue with more mask mandates. I mean, the three of us, in regards to Nate, Michael Solomon, and myself, we live in the state of Ohio. Governor DeWine, is completely, he is so involved in the agenda of what he's doing of mask mandates, it is absolutely insanity here. They're trying to impeach him right now, but he's
supposedly a Republican, right?
Absolutely. Right?
Oh my goodness.
We're all dealing with that. It is absolutely insanity. Yep. Although we now know he has connections to the Clinton foundations. We've now discovered. He has
some of Epstein's buddies.
Yep, he has stake in hydroxychloroquine, which he purchased a massive amount of, and then hid it, and did not allow people to buy it. Then he allowed people to buy it once they realized, you are mandating against anybody willingly wanting to take hydroxychloroquine. That's what's happening.
Trump mentions it and the whole world hates it. Wasn't that the most incredible thing? He mentions it once and the whole world hated it. The whole world went right against it.
And Chris, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I saw a tweet from, it was Bill Gates, and this was, when some of the prominent governors, California, New York, and then DeWine of Ohio started cranking up along with those lines. And DeWine was one of the people that Bill Gates gave a shout out to in a Twitter.
Great.
So in a tweet. So that ought to tell you something.
But also we have to remember DeWine, yes, he is definitely a problem, but he can't do squat governmentally without the backing of the state Senate. So it's DeWine and the Senate. But nobody talks about the Senate because they're just as much they're just as much of a punk as DeWine.
Go look up in Ohio if you're in Ohio, and if you're in Ohio, you already know, which is Nino Vitale. He's right there. He is a representative for the state, and he is calling it out. He is absolutely phenomenal, and he knows the sham that this is, and he's been calling this out. And DeWine, and he's been so vocal. He's somebody that I encourage everybody to follow him, whether you live in Ohio or not. The information he brings is super solid. So definitely encourage you guys to check Nino Vitale out.
Yeah, how about Texas, Rob? I mean, what's your opinion of Abbott and different things?
Well, guys, I mean, things. I mean, there's been the mandatory you got to wear a mask to go into various public places has come out, but the governor's like, we're not going to enforce it with the law though. Like he made it like really plain that police aren't going to be jacking with you, but like, come on guys, let's, we're in this together kind of thing. Yeah. So yes, everywhere you go, you see the signs, you got to wear a mask, but like I go to 24-hour fitness and the signs are all over, you got to wear a mask in the gym, but there's probably, I'd say about 20% of us, including myself, that don't. And like, nobody's messing with us. Nobody's, they're like, ask them like, yep, it's in my pocket. They didn't, I mean, that could change certainly, but that's the way it is right now. And I was talking with John Gabrielson about it. He's like, yeah, dude, there's nobody I know, he was saying this, there's nobody I know in the police department is going to do anything about it.
Let me ask you, Rob, this, Rob. So a lot of patriots, a lot of, extreme conservatives, they look to Texas because Texas has the ability to secede. What, you live there, what is the talk within Texas? Because outside of Texas, everybody's like, oh, wait till Texas secede, we'll move there. I hear it every circle that we're a part of. And, I'm going, I don't know if this is even reality.
Well, I mean, I have seen talk of secession at various times since I've been here in 2003. And each time I'm going, yeah, that'd be awesome, but then nothing ever comes of it. And what's frightening to me right now is the amount of people that are moving from California to Texas. And they're just going to bring all their liberal, and these people have money too, so they're going to bring all their liberal ideology and their money and stack this place up, right from the city council, local school board level and everything, just like they did in California, with their people. And I'm thinking, is the writing on the wall? How much time do we have left yet? Are Texans really going to, like, what is a Texan anymore? That's almost the question now. Like the true diehard Texans, when I first moved here in 2003, it was pretty obvious, don't mess with Texas.
Aren't the cities Democrat now? Aren't they kind of pretty much liberal, most of the cities in Texas?
No, not so much.
Okay.
At least not where I am, but
like Dallas and stuff, it would be more Republican, you'd say, the city.
Well, now, I mean, it's really becoming more of a melting pot, and that's what I'm saying is like, what is Texan anymore, right? Like, I was born here in Texas, but I lived in Massachusetts pretty much my entire life for over 30 years. I came back to my home here, in 2003, and like I said, when I first got here, it was, don't tread on me, that kind of attitude, don't mess with Texas. I don't see this.
Rob, I remember 10, 15, 20 years ago when they were running ads for Texas tourism, they would say, Texas is like a whole other country, because that was still, that was still the attitude, like, hey, don't mess with us, man.
I think it's more rural now. I really don't like Austin, like these city centers. I mean, they've gone incredibly liberal. So I would think more of the rural areas would still be pretty hardcore Texan, but I really don't know if the
city areas. Yeah, I think you're right. And like the area where I live, they've in the last 5 years or so brought a lot of major industry. I mean, like Toyota has a whole plant like right down the road from where we had the conference. Here was last year. And so I mean, the area where I live now, when I moved here in 2003, was farmland. Now it's all where you had the conference here last year, Robbie.
Yep.
You saw how built up that area is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that area in 2003 was farmland. So that's how much has been built up just since 2003. And with that buildup is brought and there's a lot of foreigners here too. There's a lot of people from India here, a large and growing Asian community as well. So I mean, at least in the area where in and around where I live right now, it's very much of a melting pot these days, which comes with the melting pot of ideologies, of course. So I'm not seeing the don't mess with Texas stuff that I used to see and dream of and, take pride in, when I, as a Texan myself, I'm not seeing anymore. But the other thing is, and I wanted to bring this up to you guys, because like I said, I pretty much in 2012 swore off the entire political system. And now I recognize how much of that was a mistake. I should, especially at least on the local level, I should be a lot more involved. And especially after talking with John about that. Have you guys been seeing, like, it seems like everywhere I turn, whether it's a video commercial running on YouTube or email spam or Facebook ad or whatever. Everywhere I turn, there's somebody begging me for money for, hey, you know, the Democrats are close to taking over the Senate. I need you to donate now. Hey, the Republicans need you to donate. And it's like, we need this amount of money to you know, win the seats. I'm like, what is this? An auction? Are we paying for seats? Like, I've never seen, maybe I was blind to it before. I don't know, but I'm asking, I've never seen this before this year. It seems like a huge political scam where these guys are just getting incredibly rich off of gullible people that are living in fear right now. I can't let the Democrats win. I can't let the Republicans win. I'm going to donate $100 to this. And I fell prey to it. I'll be honest with you. I saw some stuff and I'm like, man, the Democrats are just completely out of their mind, bat crap crazy, insane. I'm going to, you know, contribute to the Republican Party. So I contributed, I think it was $100. I can't even tell you how many emails I get now. Like I'm on the spam list. Like I get hundreds of emails a day and text messages. Like, and it wasn't even a thank you. Like when you contribute whatever amount. It didn't go, hey, thank you. You know, we appreciate it. It was an upsell. It was like, hey, you have an opportunity to double your contribution. I'm like, well, what? And so you're like, it's like, okay, well, you didn't want to double it. Well, you consider doing a monthly. It was like five screens. I kid you not, 5 screens of upsell after I'd already contributed $100. I'm like, this is a massive scam. I just got scammed.
Yeah, I'm getting all kinds of junk mail every day. And, you know, of course, with all of us Ohioans, I mean, Ohio is a bellwether state, you know. I mean, it's a super important state for elections. And so, you know, I'm not surprised that there's all kinds of junk mail around here. But, yeah, it gets real annoying, you know. And it's like, of course, they're getting really good at hiding junk mail. So some stuff looks very important. You open it because you're like, well, you know, what if it's not junk mail? Then you're like, you know, dang it, I opened another junk mail asking for money, you know.
Well, but I mean, I know everything costs money, and I know political campaigns to run campaigns run money, but none of these people are telling me what I'm getting for the money. No. They're just giving money so we can win a seat.
It's fear-based. Like, we don't do this is what's going to happen.
What are you going to do for me? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, okay, I'll contribute to your campaign, but what are you going to do for me? Like, I'm not seeing that from anybody, frankly. Are you? Like, what's your take on all that?
Yeah.
All I see is the gimme with their handout. I've seen the commercials on YouTube and Facebook, but you're right. They never tell you what you're going to get. They just make this big statement of, be afraid. The people you don't want are going to get into office. We need your help. Help us. Give us your money. But that's it. No details, no platform information, nothing. So, yeah, it's just a money grab.
It's really going to be up to the people. I mean, I think it's going to be up to the people. Like, we're seeing some uprising with militias and different things, just taking a stand, you know, defending, you know, personal property. I really do believe it's coming to that. I think, you know, at the point when you have all the media, you got all the sports, you got all the Hollywood, you've got pretty much all the news channels. That's where it's coming. And now, because it's so extreme, and it literally is domestic terrorism. I mean, that's what you're watching. I don't know if you guys watch Rand Paul. Rand Paul is a libertarian. He's not even a Republican for the most part with his policies. And he's the one that's helping prison reform. And yet they're, you know, almost trying to kill him the night he's coming out of the RNC. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I saw the.
I mean, it was horrifying. And there's like 2 cops and then more cops join. But you're just kind of thinking like, man, this is turning in really crazy. And these are big cities and it's just compounding. And I don't see it slowing down. I see it escalating. And then I see it even amplifying after the elections. It's pretty frightening what's going on. And the question is, before it'd be like, okay, the police are here to, you know, protect and serve. And, you know, I really think people need to be standing up and speaking out more for the police. And I'll say one thing, the local police are the last line of defense against tyranny, tyranny, period. And
that's why they have to get rid of. Yeah, that's exactly why they have to get rid of.
That's why they're being demonized.
Exactly. You take out the police, and what do you do? Do you abolish the police, or do you replace it? And the question is, what are they going to replace it with? Social justice warriors? So no, we need to be more vocal on those police, because I mean, the morale must be way down. I mean, they can't even do their job because they're fearful of going to prison now. If they even do what they're required to do. I mean, they put their life on the line every day. And I just think that the police, man, they have the shortest end of the stick when it comes to this whole war that's coming. It's like the police really need to be defended, and people need to speak out on social media a lot stronger for supporting Blue.
Think about how many officers have retired in the last say 3 to 6 months.
It's frightening, man. You look at the stats, it's frightening what's going on. And the question is, what are they being replaced with, right?
Yeah.
So
well, they have to lower their standards. See, that's the problem. You know, when you get into crunch and you have to lower your standards, that's where you're really gonna, make a problem for your local city.
Yeah. But they really are the good guys. Sure, there's some bad guys out there, but 99% of police, honestly, are good people in the sense that they do good work. They put their life on the line. This is nonsense. This whole idea that all police are bad, we need to abolish them, they're evil, they're all racist. Give me a break. It is ridiculous, but people are believing it. The scary thing is people are hypnotized. They're in a trance because they're like, yeah, you're right. All white people are racist. Yeah, all police are bad. It's like, it's unbelievable what's going on. And people are like, nodding their head. Governors, mayors, all the people, the media, everyone is just in unison. And that's why this is spiritual, gentlemen, because I'll tell you one thing. When it came to the whole gender war, listen, man, you don't have 0.2% start changing washrooms across America unless there's something spiritual behind the scenes. 0.2% are transgendered, right? Something like that. When you get into the LGBT, the amount of power they've had for 2% of the entire population, it's extraordinary. So now what we're seeing is this phase coming up where all of a sudden they're going to have incredible power. And the question is it them having the power or is it the spiritual forces behind them that are having that power transforming America?
It's both. And, again, I admit my guilt in not being more involved in it. And John really politely rebuked me and really made me think, Obama said, back when he was campaigning, we need a civilian national security force that's just as strong, just as powerful, and just as well funded. Everybody's, what's he talking about? I mean, he's talking about the Gestapo. I mean, he's talking that's exactly what Hitler wanted. And look, I've got two of my sister's best friends growing up are police officers that I know well. My uncle was a police officer. I've got buddies that I was served with in the Army that went off and became state troopers. I mean, I know a lot of police officers, both local police as well as state police, and even had relatives that were police officers. And every one of those people I know were, in some cases godly. Not everybody were Christians, but good people. But the point is, like John says, like, look, we live in the community where we police. Like, we're your neighbor. Like, we know.
They got families there.
They have families there. They have a vested interest in the community.
Their kids go to your school. Your kids' school.
Exactly. That's the big point. That's the big takeaway there, is that they're your neighbor. They know you. Get the civilian national security force that's just as well funded, just as powerful and everything as the military. Where are they coming from? If they don't know, and they're not going to think twice about doing harm to you.
Yeah. It just seems crazy how everyone's just kind of echoing this. And really, in my opinion, the biggest racist is Margaret Sanger. I mean, it's unbelievable that BLM aren't taking more of a stance against one of the most racist organizations and founders, and putting, what is it, 80% of Planned Parenthood are in black neighborhoods? It's unbelievable that when the stats come up, people still won't believe it. They're like, nope, this is evil. And the question is, how do we restructure history, America, and start from scratch? And that's what's horrifying. They want to tear down every single thing, about America, about their heritage, about their history, and rewrite it. I mean, that's what the scary thing is. They're rewriting it. But if you understand the whole Marxist, communist rule, they have to tear down history in order to build it up under their own paradigm. So this is what we're witnessing. They have to, and they have to take out police. I mean, police are going to be public enemy number one because they do understand. In order for UN or anyone to start rolling in, you got to start taking out those local police, right? They're the last line of defense against tyranny.
And Rob, I don't know about your area, but some of these police officers, many of them served in the military. So they're not just local police officers, but they have tactical training and everything else. And they're the ones that are loyal. So imagine you got to take those guys out especially because they know the tactics.
They don't live in like big mansions. They live in our neighborhoods. I mean, they are our neighbors. They're just regular people doing their job, and they've been doing it good for a long period of time. Now they're coming against so much attack. I mean, I don't think they understand how fierce it's going to get. So we need to defend them and help them. Hold that thought, gentlemen. We're going to come back to hour 2. You're listening to the special panel show, Exposing the Endgame. This is Celebrate Truth Radio, episode 78. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message.
Narco-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week. Yes. But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting. Yes, I see. By a civil majority in the case of purely internal affairs. Be quiet. But by a 2/3 majority in the case of more... Be quiet. I order you to be quiet. Look, you stupid bastard, you've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look! It's just a flesh wound.
I don't believe I've seen such a display of courage, skill, nerve, grace, and stupidity.
I'll do you for that. Oh, what? Come here. What are you going to do, bleed on me? I'm invincible. You're a loony. The Black Knight always triumphs.
Roundtable Live, Monday through Friday, 1 a.m. till 4 a.m. Eastern Time. Bring your mind, bring your ideas, bring your voice. King Arthur had nothing on us here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
downloaded to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
The future is uncertain. I know this. Death is inevitable. I know this. But one thing is certain. As free men, it is our right to live unencumbered and in peace. And those times are quickly drawing to an end. And in these times, peace is certainly an illusion. And as the chains grow tighter, our ability to slip those chains increase incrementally with every passing moment. Inaction is no longer an option. It's time to raise our voices like a cacophony of thunder and lightning and tell the masters no more. And this is Nighthawk, and I say, for myself, no more. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, because the freedom is slipping away. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
This is episode 78. This is hour 2. Our guest tonight is Rob Skiba, Michael Solomon, Nate Wolf, and Chris Bailey. And we were talking about exposing the end game. Gentlemen, when it comes to taking down a country and taking down a system, one of the key things here with America, I think everyone should recognize, is that the U.S. is the world reserve currency. In order to pivotally change the world, you have to take down the monetary system. Where you guys stand with the next couple of years? What do you think is coming? the stock market's at an all-time high, and yet 1 in 4 small businesses are closing for good. These are the stats that are coming out. I think that we're going to see ramifications into next year. We're not going to see it because the Federal Reserve is printing so much money that everything's looking rosy when you start looking at the stock market. But again, it's not a true representation on how dire and how bad things are and how bad they want it to get in order to do a great reset. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I've been following the Nasara deal for a while now, and I actually belong to a group that has people that are supposedly banking insiders, and so they have this sort of the weekly intel kind of thing, and it's been like every Friday for almost a year now, where they're like, this is happening, all this stuff is happening, and it sounds really great. I mean, it sounds like this great reset thing is going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. Until you start looking at who's behind it and what it involves and what strings may be attached to it in order to benefit from it. And that's what has me very concerned, especially since it's all tied to Saint Germain. And I had done a ton of research on that character back in the late 90s for a movie script I was writing called The Omega Conspiracy. And there is an individual who in history was named Saint Germain, and dude was around for hundreds of years. I mean, he would show up, and there's all kinds of recorded accounts of him meeting with royalty and then meeting with them again like 50 years later, and he hadn't aged a bit. Lots of interesting stuff from the 1500s well into the 1700s. Allegedly, the same individual was there for the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and then he sort of went underground after that. And allegedly, this person, whoever or whatever he is, the New Age has made him an ascended master and archon and all that kind of stuff. But whatever he is, he existed at some point in history, and it's pretty well documented that he did. And apparently, during the time of his life, he accumulated tremendous wealth and put those into some sort of trust fund, the Saint Germain Trust, among others. And these trusts and bonds and different things, I guess, have come to maturity, and there are various people in the know that are ready to cash in on it, and this is going to be the source of Nasara Jasara. I don't know how many people here are familiar with all that, but you can just Google it and look into it. And, if all of that is true, then I can see, there could be like this tremendous store of wealth that's ready to be released. But what are the strings? What strings are going to be attached to that? Like, in other words, what are you going to have to do to benefit from that new system? If it is released, we are looking at what the appearance of an amazing reset that could really revolutionize and have all the appearance of this is wonderful. Mm-hmm. But what's underneath it, what's underlying it, that's what is of a major concern.
My feeling is they're going to blame it on the whole, beginnings of America, and this is why we need to do the Great Reset. Is this whole capitalist idea was failed from the beginning. They want to emulate China. I mean, we can clearly see that they're echoing, what they're wanting as far as China, the credit system, all these things are coming. But again, financially, as far as a global, currency, U.S. it has to come down because it's the world reserve currency. You can't just end. It's got to kind of reset. So that's why I think everything hinges on America. And I think that's why we're seeing such an attack on America, because without America falling and being, restructured, none of these plans can be put in place. Just my opinion.
No, I'm with you. In fact, if you were watching my presentation, there's a video in there called the Omega Plan ? That I put out in 2011. Dealing with the Iraqi dinar. Mm-hmm. And I have a whole chapter in my book talking about that. And just to summarize all that, the Iraqi dinar at one point was one of the highest valued currencies on earth, next to, I think, Kuwait. I think Kuwait was in the $4 or something range, and the Iraqi dinar used to be worth $3.22 US. So we would pay $3.22 for one of their dinar. And then we have the first Gulf War party and then the second Gulf War party. And in the first one, no, it was after 9/11, we go in there, we capture Saddam Hussein, we topple their government and all that stuff. And then the De La Rue goes in there, and a 13-bank consortium led by J.P. Morgan Chase Bank and a few others go in there, and they establish a new currency, the new Iraqi dinar. Mm-hmm. And if you look at it on the front of of a dinar, depending what denomination. I think all the denominations are the same. They have Arabic, Iraqi type iconography and writing on the front, and on the back it's all English. And so what that said to me is, I believe end time Babylon is is the Babylon that we read in Scripture. The end time Babylon is the physical Babylon that historically has always been in Iraq. I know people want to say it's New York or the Vatican or all these other ideas of what Babylon. I think there's a system. There's a Babylonian system for sure. But I think the Babylon that is judged in the end times is a physical, literal Babylon that was a physical, literal Babylon in Iraq. And if that Babylon is going to rise again in the last days, it will only happen through the backing of the United States. And so my speculation on that, as many others have speculated, is like, what's going to happen if the RV, I should say when the RV revalues? And that this was even long before Nassar Jassar or anything like that was kind of public on social media. I know Nassar Jassar has been around for a while, but not a lot of people knew about it. But in the meantime, there was this whole Iraqi dinar thing. So when they create this new dinar, they devalued it to 3,000 dinar to $1 US. So it used to cost $3.22 US to get one dinar. Now you could get 3,000 dinar for $1 US. And you got to know that the Bush family and the government and lots of people in government were buying it like crazy, or getting it or acquiring it like crazy when it was at 3,000 to 1. It slowly, actually fairly quickly appreciated in value from 3,000 to 1 to roughly 1,100 to 1, which is pretty much where it is now. 1170, it hovers in there in that ballpark. So it went from 3,000 to 1170. So even if you got in at 3,000 and now you're at 1170, you still made a pretty healthy return if you invested. But everybody's waiting with bated breath. When is it going to finally RV either to a 1-to-1, so 1 dinar to $1 US, or if it reinstates an RI to its previous value of $3.22 with inflation? How you doing, right? I mean, you get 1 million dinar for $1,000. You know, you're doing amazing. So there's always been this concept of a reset, but sadly, this reset's always tied to Babylon or tied to the occult or to the New Age or what have you. And as somebody pointed out in the chat room, are you going to be required to, whatever the mark is, whatever it turns out to be, are you going to be required to get that first in order to benefit from the reset? And I'm going to say, yeah, probably.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, and if it's digital, it could be backed by gold, it could be backed by something else, but there's no doubt that whatever the new reset is, the new currency of the world, it's going to be digital. I mean, China's working on their thing. There's cryptocurrencies all over the place. I mean, it's just the wave of the future. It's where everything is going. So we know it's going to be digital. So there's a very good likelihood that will be a result for sure. I think even just looking at even precious metals, gold and silver, I mean, they've just started skyrocketing. I think they're going to suppress them. They're going to try their hardest through the Federal Reserve to kind of not allow that to get away from them. But I think that we're at the end game as far as the finances go. I don't think that there's anything more that they have up their sleeve. I mean, you can only put interest rates so low. I mean, you could go minus, right? Where you start giving people money for taking loans, and that could happen. But they really have no other power other than printing dollars. And we know every other time they've done this throughout the world, it moves to hyperinflation. First it's deflationary, then it goes hyperinflation. That means that food and all of our needs are going to get very expensive. It's going to take more dollars to pay for the same things until it just completely obliviates. And this is what we've seen all throughout the world with a lot of currencies. So, I mean, I let people know, look into other alternatives. Look into the difference between currency and money. Have some money. Just have that on side. Again, have food, water. We all have been woken up to the fact that maybe there's no toilet paper on the shelves for a while, right? We know that, things on the shelf could disappear. Look, guys, it could happen again. Forget the whole end of the world scenario. There could be another scare and everyone runs to the grocery store and now it's going to be hard for you to find beans or whatever. So I think it's just good, practical, smart things to put in place and saying, look, let's have some extra food on supply. Let's have water. Let's have, no matter what happens, let's kind of be prepared. Beans? I said beans, yeah. I was thinking of canned goods. Yeah, I was thinking of canned beans.
I'm the only one freaking out over here. You said no beans and they come out.
No beans, man.
I know, you started sweating, Chris, but my point is, it's like before we could be like, yeah, you guys are all talking about the end of the world and stocking up. But now the whole world has been awoken to the fact, like, there might not be stuff on the shelves when you want to go get it at that time. I mean, I'm not saying it will last forever, but it could be a month. It could be a few weeks. It could be an inconvenience, but it could be worse next time around. It's like that was like the prelude to something that's coming. So yeah, food, water, they talk about guns, have ammo. But again, I think it's very, very smart to have some precious, metals, some silver, and look into some cryptocurrencies. They're not all evil, everyone. You might think that they're all evil. You heard of Bitcoin, but I think it's very smart to start looking in, because the world is going to compete. They're not going to actually emulate. They're going to compete, and they're going to play the whole fear game. Oh, you don't want that stuff, that Bitcoin or that cryptocurrency, because that's not safe. Ours is safe. It's in the bank. It's insured. It's the way the world's going, and we give you 2% back on your credit card if you use it. So they're going to play that game. But if they wanted to take down Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, they would have taken it down a long time ago, and they've tried before. But they can't do anything when something is decentralized. So look into decentralization. Look into these things, because I think in the future, not only will it be for finance, but I think decentralized social media. We'll be communicating through decentralized platforms. We won't be on the platforms anymore, gentlemen. I don't believe the whole being on YouTube, Facebook, these social media things, they're coming to an end in the next decade or so. I don't believe that we're going to have the luxury to be having these conversations. I don't know about you, but what do you think, Michael Solomon, as far as everything that you've been seeing as far as the censorship and just how extreme it's getting right across the board for anything that doesn't fit the national narrative?
Anything that reflects freedom has to go. They cannot control us if we're allowed to just say anything we want anywhere we want. And so, yeah, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, they're on their way out. And we have to actually build our own networks. And I agree with you. Decentralization is going to be key, and we need to take advantage of that. But we have to build our own network. You know what? At the end of the day, all it takes is money, and our Father happens to own the entire world. So, according to Scripture, if we have doubtless faith and we continue to trust in Him no matter what, He will give us what we need. And by that token, the scum elite, I hate just calling them elite because that sounds more like a compliment. The scum elite, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of control, and they're ruthless. But these people are not gods, all right? Because at the end of the day, they would have executed their plans a long time ago. But Yahweh was way too busy stopping them and slowing them down.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, look at the Georgia Stone. They would have killed us off a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
These people aren't patient. Well, let's put it this way. They're patient only because they have to be, okay? Because they would gladly execute all of their evil plans now if they could. So the censorship and all that stuff, that's going to go up very high. As far as the monetary system goes, they have to get rid of cash, because in order to control us, a digital currency is the way to go. They have to create an imaginary currency, and that's what digital currency is really. So the whole cash system, that has to be completely eradicated.
And there's the control element to that too. When you start thinking of not being able to buy or sell, the digital control could be immediate. I mean, how many times have any of us had our bank, even if it was just a mistake, instantaneously your card is locked. It's like,
yep.
No, I went out of state and I forgot to tell them, hey, I'm going to Kentucky for the weekend.
They'll be able to shut you down, no problem. Like PayPal, you just shut down your account. It'll be the same way when they're like, yep.
I'll tell you, from a simple man's, sometimes when I listen to all you smart financiers, I'm sitting here like Forrest Gump saying, I'm not a smart man, Jenny. But I can tell you as a simple man in a small town in Ohio outside of Toledo, where I've seen the big hit the last several months. I mean, I don't know how many of you have an Aldi store, grocery store where you're at. We have Walmart, we have Kroger, we have Aldi. I'm telling you what, with a family of 6, we shop a lot at Aldi. And just in the last few months, I used to be able to go in there, fill my cart to the brim. If I broke $170, that was unusual. I went the last couple, 3-4 times that I went, it seems like I had a fairly full cart and it was over $200. And my jaw was hitting the floor. I'm like, oh, this is bad, because if you're spending,
Yeah.
And it's just starting,
Yeah.
you know.
The one way they've been hiding it for a while is they shrink everything. Have you ever noticed that stuff? Just look at a chocolate
Yes.
bar. I mean, it's like, like cereal boxes are like puny. Like they're starting to shrink everything at the same price and, you know, and more. But when they can't do it any longer, that's when you're going to see it kick in. But I believe like next year, maybe the year after, when it starts kicking in, I mean, you haven't seen anything yet. I mean, if you look at the Weimar Republic, if you look at like different Venezuela, all these different Argentina, when you see what happens when they start inflating the currency and when they start printing money like mad. And here's the thing, it's not just the US, the entire world, every single country is printing money like it's going out of style. Well, it's bad news for everyone because it is going to get very expensive. It's going to take more and more dollars to buy the same things. And we have not even entered into massive inflation. We're just on kind of a normal level, kind of starting to rise. You're starting to see it a little bit. But when it starts kicking into high gear, because remember, all this money that they're printing, have you ever asked yourself the question, where are they getting it from? They're broke. They have no money. The government doesn't make anything. The government takes it from the people. So the question is, where is this money coming from? It's coming from nowhere. But here's the dangerous thing. It's coming from everyone. We're all going to suffer from it. It's kind of the hidden tax that nobody really thinks about. They think about state taxes and all that. But the hidden tax that governments have been able to figure out, it's called inflation. You inflate the currency away. So that $10,000 in your bank really can only buy about $6,000 worth of stuff in about 2 years. So it doesn't matter how much how much currency that you start saving. You want to have a store of value, like gold and silver. Silver is a store of value over time. I mean, Rob Blackwell did a presentation with Take on the World, and he went through it. And I use this analogy all the time. But when I was born in 1972, a nice Armani's men's suit and 2 pairs of shoes was $35. Okay, so if I had been given an ounce of gold, which was $35, or I put $35 of cash in a shoebox. Fast forward to 2020. I take out that $35 cash. It hardly buys me a nice t-shirt. But that same ounce of gold, if I cash it out, what will it buy me? A nice Armani suit and 2 pairs of shoes. What's happened there? It's preserved its purchasing power over long periods of time. The dollar is the worst thing to hold on to. Do not hold cash. Not the fact that it's going away. The fact is, it doesn't matter if it's digital or if it's paper. If you're holding on to currency, it's going to obliviate into nothing because governments know they can print it. And basically, it steals from your pocket. It's sitting in your pocket. They're stealing from you every time they start printing more. Well, in 2020, they have printed more than I think the last 150 years combined times like 10. They are going crazy, and this is just the start. There's going to be more scares coming up. The stock market's going to crash. They're going to save the day. There's more of these save the day scenarios coming. We're just getting started with the printing, and it's not just U.S. It's Canada. It's Australia. It's every country of the world. This massive currency experiment is coming to a dramatic end, and if you're not prepared, people are going to suffer, but you don't need to suffer. You can actually weather the storm if you're smart, kind of like when it was, Joseph, I used that example where he said, look, there's going to be 7 years, of plenty, and then there's 7 years of famine coming up. In the 7 years of plenty, be a good steward and store up and, be prepared for those 7 years. We're moving, gentlemen, into a period of time where it's going to get very, very tough, but it's still a ways off, in my opinion. It's another year to 2 years away, but I could be wrong.
So, Robbie, in that regard, like silver makes sense because it's still, in the 20s, at least last time I checked it was.
It's about $30. It's about $30 now.
Okay, so it's gone up.
Yeah,
but like gold, I mean, most
don't
stores you go.
Yeah, don't worry about gold. I mean, when I'm talking to most people, nobody, it's hard to afford that, but everyone can afford $30. I tell people buy an ounce a month. By $30, 1 ounce, it's about $30, well, it's $27 right now or whatever. I just tell people, look, silver is even a better investment because how are you going to get groceries with an ounce of gold? It's going to be a hard thing to do, right? You're not going to want to give away an ounce of gold for some groceries or gas, but you can do that with an ounce of silver. So, I mean, when I say gold and silver, I just mean precious metals, but I'm saying all throughout history, remember, this is God's money. I mean, think of the tabernacle, think of the Ark of the Covenant. It was created in gold and silver. This is God created. Currency is man created. Currency is man created. Gold and silver and precious metals are God created. And he's created it as an amazing accounting system that when everything gets out of whack and gets all corrupt, he causes this accounting system to take place where it equalizes everything again. Based on the calculation on where gold and silver are going to go to in the near future are astronomical because it has to account for all the dollars that are out, that have been printed. So you can see in Rome, it happened. You can see in Greece, you can see all throughout history, this always happens where there's this accounting where everything kind of equalizes equalizes, and it's like he's put this in place to keep everything honest. I mean, everyone goes corrupt over time, and they start diluting it. Back in the Roman days, what they would do is just dilute, the actual coinage. I mean, look at your coins right now in your pocket. Do you think you have any real silver in there? They've already done that. But now what they're doing is even worse. Right. They're starting to print all this money out of nothing. They don't even print anymore. That would cost them too much money. They wouldn't be able to afford that. So what they do is just add zeros on a computer. They just add more zeros and say there's money, but it is going to have massive ramifications. And I can't stress, it's important to, spiritually be prepared, but financially, you don't have to be a freak and crazy about it. Just have a peace of mind about having some, because all throughout history, it has always acted as real, true money, and people will always accept something that is real. And honestly, gold and silver is real. Currency is not. It's paper, and it's going to basically, it'll be heating your home sometime in the future, where you're going to be lighting it on fire to basically keep yourself warm. That's happened before in the past. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is very, very important. And the good news is there's still a lot of time. I tell people, you could get 1 ounce of silver for the next year. It's $30 a month, and you'd have 12 ounces of silver. That 12 ounces of silver could get you some groceries, some gas. It could last you for quite some time. You might be surprised. But don't count on those dollars, a dollar counting for much. I mean, it's already destroyed, and we're seeing this right now with precious metals and where things are going to go. Gold already has reached its all-time high, and it's past it. Silver hasn't even got to its all-time high yet. So what do you think is going to happen when gold gets to, say, $22, $23, $2,400? It's never been to these places before. It's never been over 2,000. Well, it's already over 2,000. They're losing control of the rigged game that they've had for a long time, because once you see precious metals going out of control, like going up, 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 it's not that precious metals are going up in price. The dollar is going down. It is a bad sign. When you see gold and silver start rising, you got to start getting prepared, because the end game is right around the corner. Because if they let that thing get out of control, and we see that, then yes, the dollar days are numbered, in they're coming to an end.
Now, hey, Robbie, let me jump in here real quick.
Yeah.
So I think now's a great time, because there's a couple questions in regard to finances. Let's go ahead and start fielding some. I got some questions already ready for you guys. So let's go ahead and start with a few of these questions, and make sure you guys, if you guys got nothing, just pass, keep going to the next person. So let's see how many we can knock out here. And everybody in the chat, please continue to send those questions in. Make sure they are in caps with the question up front, so that way I can see it easy. But this one deals with finances right away. What do you think about those of us who have mortgages, and could this be a scenario where people will be losing their homes?
I don't believe so, because they're going to want money coming in. They're not going to want. There are going to be too many homes to take. I mean, everyone is going to be in the same position, and the bank can't do anything with like tens of thousands of homes, and where nobody can afford to buy them anyway. So no, but I say it's important to try to get out of debt if you can. If you can't, I wouldn't worry about losing your home. But if you can't pay your taxes and you can't pay your mortgage, understand your mortgage price will go down. But if you can't pay it, then yeah, I mean, you could run into some issues. That's why it's important to have savings. I mean, they did a study in the States, and they found out that it was like a shocking 15% of people had more than $2,000 of savings or something like that when it came to middle class. You need to have some savings. And quite honestly, that's why I'm saying silver, have that in the mix. Don't just have savings in currency or paper. Have stuff that you can hold and put in a safe or bury in your backyard. Have a little bit. You don't have to go crazy with it. Just have a little bit. But the answer to the question is no, I don't believe that you will lose your home, but you got to make sure that you've got, a good 4 or 5 months worth of supplies to weather the storm through whatever's coming.
Hey, Robbie, why is platinum about $1,000 less than gold? I just looked it up.
Yeah, well, I mean, platinum's always kind of fluctuated. There's palladium, and there's all these different, I mean,
platinum. So you consider you always heard silver, gold, platinum as if platinum was like always above gold. Why is it $1,000?
No, I think it's palladium. Look at the price of palladium. Palladium's usually always, I think, above gold.
Well, yeah. Not by much.
Not by much, but it's usually a little bit more. But yeah, I'm not sure. I just know that for the average person, have some silver. You don't have to go crazy about it. Have some. If you're you knew about it, you're talking about it, and you don't even have any, right now is the time to get some. Just get some. You don't have to have a lot, but get some, because all throughout history, you can just study it. A great series is The Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney. Everyone watch it. It's a 10-part series. It will blow your mind. It's like the Matrix. It's like waking up to a whole flat earth. It is just like when you understand the Matrix and you understand the difference between money and currency, it will blow your mind. So check out The Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney. It's a free series on YouTube. It's 10-part. It honestly will be worth your time. And he talks, and this was done, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. Everything you're going to see in that documentary will chill you to the bone because you're seeing it all take place in 2020.
Another question here dealing with that is, how important do you think it is for people right now to get out of debt right at this time?
I would say, yeah, it's important. If anyone else wants to talk about it.
Yeah, I would say it's very important. I mean, even just from a biblical standpoint, you know. Yeah. But, you know, again, I gave the Aldi thing, let me give you a mortgage thing. You know, months ago, before I had a steady day job, you know, obviously you guys know things were very tight, you know, since I got fired in 2018. And when the whole Corona thing hit, you know, some of the mortgage companies were offering like a 90-day forbearance, right? And we bid on that because we didn't have a choice, right? And now I've been working since June in my new day job. And so now, you know, I can afford my monthly mortgage. Well, the first time that I got the 90 days, I had to fill a bunch of paperwork out. Well, several weeks ago, I started getting random calls from the mortgage people, and they're like, we want to call and let you know that your deal has been extended another 90 days. And I'm thinking, I didn't even ask for it. It just, they're starting to give automatic extensions. And, you know, anytime somebody like that is really just wanting to reach out and help, beware, because here's the thing. Like Robbie said, most middle class Americans, they don't have that extra, you know, cash. They'd be lucky if they had 500 in the bank, you know, after they pay their bills. And so I'm saying, okay, this is a trap, you know. It's like, it's so tempting to just be like, yeah, you know, let's just grab another 90 days. But you know what? 90 days could come, and if I've been a poor steward with my money, I'm, you know, my butt's going to be in a sling, so to speak. So I think for the you know, most of America, that kind of a thing is really sketchy. You know, it almost reminds me of 10 years ago, 12 years ago, with those option arm loans that people were, you know, those bad loans. And it was great. You know, we did one of those years ago, and it dropped our mortgage like almost half. And we got out just in time, as you know, they flipped the coin, and a lot of people, you know, that was a bad deal for people. So I would just say, be careful, you know, try to get out of debt as much as you can, try to live, you know, way within your means at this time, you know, figure out what's important, you know, and stick with that.
And that's the thing. A lot of people say, well, what's it going to do if I just get a few ounces of silver? Well, I'm going to give you a case in point. In the 1980s, because home prices are going to fall, where precious metals are going to rise. But in the 1980s, it took 1,000 ounces of silver, 1,000 ounces of silver, and you could exchange it right across the board for a medium-sized family home. And you're like, what? 1,000 ounces? They're saying next time around it will be 500 ounces or less. Most people think it's going to be close to about 300 ounces. Do the math on it at $25 an ounce, and you'd be like, wait a minute. No way it could be that cheap. It's going to happen. It's happened before. This has happened throughout history. This is not something that, oh, maybe it will happen. It's happened all throughout history. It's like this honest accounting system that God has put in place to keep governments and rulers and, you know, societies all in place all throughout time. And it's going to happen again. Why is it that all the major banks and all the countries like China and Russia and India, they are stockpiling gold and silver by the metric ton for like decades? I mean, they are gearing up for something, because the question is, when all things fold and everything implodes, this whole system that's been set up on debt, because our whole system is based on, if you don't spend, the whole thing implodes. That's why they keep trying to inflate the economy, because the minute you stop shopping, it all comes down like a house of cards. They have built an economy based on debt. It is the most foolish thing that we've ever seen in the history of the world. It will be written in the history books as probably one of the foolish experiments ever. How did the whole world get sucked into this nonsense of just printing money out of nothing and destroying the currencies? So when it happens, though, that's going to be the case in point. But yeah, in the 1980s, 1,000 ounces of silver you could exchange mortgage-free, for a small, medium-sized home or whatever it was. You can look this up, and it's startling. Just like I gave you the analogy, when I was born in 72, an ounce of gold was $32, right? You can get into silver, and you can start seeing over time like how much people were paid in silver, and you can equate these. Like even Jesus, Yeshua, how much he was betrayed for, and you're kind of like, wait a minute. If you look at the value of silver based on what he was betrayed for, it's got a long way to go. It's been suppressed for a very long time. That's why this is such an important discussion. This illusion, they have kept us in this matrix of money, and it's not real. It's currency. It's all imaginary. Real money is what God created when it came to gold and silver, and countries and the smart money around the world have always known this, and it's going to come around again. And the people that are going to prosper are the people that actually saved money, not currency. It's like if Joseph saving the Israel, if he had not been smart about it and he had stored up just, I don't know, GMO crap, it wouldn't have sustained people, but he actually stored in the storehouses 10 times more than what he should have. And here's the big thing I always say to people: if you can get yourself set good enough and the way things are going to go, you're not going to be able just to help you and your family. You're going to be able to help your neighbor. And you want to talk about a powerful witness to the world is when you can actually feed them, help them when they're hungry. That is a powerful way to witness. If we're prepared, we're not just prepared to be selfish for ourselves. We're there to help our neighbors. And quite honestly, there's no better way to love your neighbor than basically give them food when they're starving.
Actually, that's the comment I'm on to make, because there are plenty of people, and I've been poor. I grew up very, very poor, whereas we didn't know where our next meal was coming from, that sort of thing, electricity constantly being turned off. There are plenty of people in that situation. The silver idea is a superb idea, but there are plenty of people who just cannot do it. All right. And so those who have the means can, and so that they can be able to help those who can't. And you're right. That is the most powerful witness.
It really is. It really is. And it's going to come a time when people are going to get very hungry. And I'm telling you, that is kind of the Great Commission. That's that's a commandment. It's like feed the hungry. There are going to be people around you that are going to be hungry. And if we know what's coming, it's selfish of us not just to not prepare for our own family. It's selfish not to prepare for our family and our neighbors that are, across from us or beside us. We should definitely prepare for that.
That's a great point, Robbie. When it comes to, Torah observance, and you look at what James tells us in the book of James. It tells us what good religion, what good faith is, what is taking care of orphans and the widows, and we just don't focus on that stuff. We don't do those things. And so, when we're looking at this financially, if we can set ourselves up in a position, whether we're, obviously, nobody here is, living off the hog and they're rich and have this, but if we are good stewards with our money and we are free givers of our money, we will be able to be a blessing to so many. And I think this is a great opportunity to go into a couple other questions that we've got coming in. We've got, of course, I wanted to give this one out. Alex Javier, huge take on the world family. He plays drums in the music, so of course we're going to get this question in for him. So this question is, maybe one of you guys has any thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on going back to our peacetime flag versus our maritime flag? And what are your thoughts on the United States of America versus the United States for America? United States for America. Have any of you guys looked into that?
I'm not familiar with the second terms that you gave there, but I've been seeing some stuff posted about the flags. In fact, I think I just saw something today that was showing the difference between Republican and Democrat platforms or whatever. One had the maritime flag with the gold edging, and one had the without it. So, is there a hidden message there, or truth in plain sight kind of a thing? I'm not the best guy for that, but
yeah, I don't know exactly what I want to say on that, aside from the Q crowd is all over that, like the Q narrative, and I've always said, look, I'm cautiously hopeful on that deal, but I've become more and more skeptical of it by the day, frankly. But that whole Q narrative is like, we're going to drain the swamp, the cabal is going to go down, and we're going to get America back, and it's going to be the real America. It's all this rah pie in the sky. The white hats are going to save us all, and we're going to get out from under the corporation of the United States and get back to the Republic of the United States and all that stuff. I hear the rhetoric.
In every pot, right?
The question is, does America deserve it from a spiritual standpoint, based on him looking down, spiritually speaking, does America deserve that? Like, that's, I'm not trying to be hard on America, but I'm just looking at the spiritual state, the depravity, just what America's done spiritually, especially taking God out of everything. Yeah. As we see kind of in the Bible where he judges nations and countries, like, look at it from that point of view. A Christian, that's into Q,
there'd have to
why
be
would it
widespread repentance.
Well, that's my point, is why would America even deserve that, to completely turn righteous and destroy all the evil and become this righteous nation? Like, how would they even deserve that based on their actions? We've already been talking about the lukewarmness pretty much right across the board in America as far as their relationship with God. So I just don't understand that correlation between, biblically speaking, when he sees nations that veer away from him, it's not like kumbaya. It's usually judgment for a while, or, oppression and persecution, and then maybe revival and then blessings. But I never really see this, why would it turn out that way?
Yeah, Robbie, on the one hand, I very much agree with what you just said. On the other hand, and people could go to virtualhousechurch.com, go to my main website on the front page, virtualhousechurch.com, scroll down to the 119 Ministries Fellowship Finder and look at all the blue dots there. Mm. And all those blue dots, and of all the nations in the world, America has the most.
It's true.
By far. Mm-hmm. Of these blue dots. And what these blue dots represent are people, I call it the Ephraim Awakening. People who are going back and realizing their Bible doesn't consist of only one book, Galatians, and it doesn't start with Matthew. It starts with Genesis. And once you understand Genesis and Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and understand what Paul understood, then you can go back and read Galatians, and it takes on a whole new meaning. Mm-hmm. But I say all that to say is this is a remnant that is growing of people who are repenting. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then what? I will hear from heaven, right, and heal their land. Could it be? I'm just asking the question. I've never seen this before. I've never seen anything close to this kind of a revival, frankly, of people who are trying to walk in God's ways, that are trying to understand how the commandments work, and keep the Sabbath and the feasts and get out of Babylon and all the Babylonian ways. This has never existed before, not in this country, not to this level. And so I wonder, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. And I'm like, okay, Father, but if this map means anything, then destroy the corporation, Father, because the corporation is evil. That 10 square mile, plot of land that is controlling the rest of us, full of idolatry, full of wickedness, completely evil. Will you destroy the righteous with the wicked? Implode that entire system. Let them self-destruct. Do whatever it takes to take down that system that is enslaving the rest of us. That all these blue dots that are trying to get on God's page.
Where can we support that biblically, though? I guess that's my point. As I'm saying, biblically speaking, if we're going to pull out verses, where can we actually defend that biblically, as far as that narrative?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, what is it? I forget the address now. The Chronicles. If my people who are called by my name,
of course, yes. Yeah, I will heal their land.
That would be. That would. I could look it up when I'm not talking.
That's the one I was thinking of, Rob, too, just a minute ago. Yeah.
That would be the verse, but the other thing would be, is when I first realized that the pre-trib rapture is a fantasy. It's not going to happen. I believed it for over 40 years of my life, and that was a shocking thing, a shocking revelation to finally embrace. It's like, wait a minute, pre-trib rapture is not going to happen. We're going to go through this stuff. The Scout Army guy in me wanted to go into the 4 Gs, right? God, gold, guns, and groceries. How can I stock up on all of it, right? And get right with God. And I was really stressing out about this. Is going back to 2013 timeframe, especially. I was really freaking out about where are we going to go, what do we do, how are we going to survive this stuff, and I had no money. I didn't have any way other than getting right with God. I didn't have the other 3 Gs. I couldn't do, and I went to a Passover conference in Denver, Colorado at that time, and Norm Franz was the guy that was heading it up, and he said something that set me free. He's in that regard. He said, your Goshen is wherever God has you. And we were talking about Joseph storing up and all that stuff. And look, Joseph had to go through what he went through, sold into slavery, all that stuff, and then raised, the whole deal with Potiphar and his wife and all the prison and all that. But then he came out of it. He stayed faithful through all of it. And he was blessed. I mean, they talk about a Joseph anointing, a blessing, that like he was second in charge of Egypt and he was in charge of saving the world at that time, effectively. And house of Jacob, 70 people come down to Egypt because of the famine, because of what Joseph did. And the plot of land where they ended up settling for the most part was Goshen. And, for an extended period of time, the house of Jacob, under the leadership of Joseph, and, for quite an extended period of time, there's 215 years from the time that Joseph was sold into slavery to the time of the slavery of the Israelites that Moses, liberated them from. 215 years. And in those 215 years, a large portion of that, the house of Israel were living like regional princes, basically. I mean, they were really doing well. And then a Pharaoh arose that did not know Joseph. And there's good reason to believe, according to, I think it's Isaiah 52, if I remember right, that Pharaoh was an Assyrian that came into the land and conquered the land. So he didn't know the Egyptian history because he's an Assyrian. He comes in there, didn't know him and all that stuff. And then, of course, we see what happens at that point is, from anywhere from 80 to 100 years at the most, they were slaves in Egypt, at the most. He raises up Moses, look, let my people go. No? Okay, fine, we're going to have all these plagues. Well, Israel experienced 3 of the 10 plagues, but the other 7 that were really bad.
They were guarded, yeah.
They were 100% preserved.
Of course.
Goshen, while all of hell was breaking loose on Egypt all around them.
Yeah. And that could very well be the case and scenario where all of a sudden all hell's breaking loose and we're somehow, preserved and protected. I guess my point is this, regardless of like Trump or not Trump, I think it's smart for us not to be so gung-ho, like we know 100% what the result's going to be, and we need to be prepared for both ways. So I agree with you 100%, Rob. Again, everything's possible, and it definitely could go that route as well. I just think it's realistically important to look at a situation and say, look, it could go either way. Trump, yep. Great. What if Trump doesn't? Then how do we change our worldview based on the fact that we see things getting real dark and a complete tyranny just taking over? As far as that, what are the Q people going to say, if Trump doesn't get in? Again, I'm just saying we have to look at the situations. We can have our views, but if we're just looking at, no, Trump's totally going to take it. No, I'm not even listening to that. Trump's going to take it 100%. What if he doesn't? Then what?
We have to remember who is the deliverer, and now, yes, could he use someone like Trump? Absolutely. But that's the key, is that we have to remember who is the deliverer,
Absolutely.
We have to put our trust in him and let him take care of the details,
Yeah, it's 2 Chronicles 7:14. I looked it up. Yeah. But my point is, wherever you are, whether you're in Canada like Robbie, or in Ohio or Texas or wherever you are, you're in your Goshen. Like this, wherever you are, that's where God has you. And so the trick then in that regard is obedience.
Yeah.
Because look, the Israelites were not appointed unto wrath. Egypt was. But what would have happened if they didn't put the blood on the door?
Yeah, correct.
Then they used the firstborn son. So when I look at that map on the Virtual House Church page, I'm going, that's the 2 Chronicles 7:14 Goshen like solution. Yes, I agree. Those who have the ability to store up the God gold, guns, and groceries, get the 4Gs, get the silver, get all that, I think should. I think there's wisdom in that. I think that's that.
But as people surely have strayed past that map, though, my point is they might become wayward. They're backslidden. We can say whatever we want, but I think it's naive to think that those dots only represent the true believers or the true church. Like I'm saying that. I think we need to understand that, it's a lot bigger than what we think. But again, there's a lot, and judgment comes to the house, first. So I think that might be a realistic, I'm just setting myself up, Rob. And I guess for the listeners, I'm just saying, rather than going 100% one direction, we got to be prepared to understand, okay, if it goes this direction, then what are we supposed to learn in this time? And what are we called to do in that time? Because I agree, what a great thing, man. If he just drained the swamp, everything became righteous and all the evil went away and we're just like, this is amazing, huge revival. Awesome. I'm not going to say no to that. But what if it doesn't go that way in the next 4 to 5 years?
Well, hey guys, I have a great question for that, which is, in regards of the Goshen, all of those things, what is your guys' take? This is what everybody's interested in hearing, is on homesteading and getting off the grid, those types of things. Is that something you guys feel that as believers we should be doing, encouraging, even down to communal living? What do you guys think about that stuff?
I think that's a person. I think that's a person-to-person decision, because, like, for myself, put me on a farm and I'm in really, really big trouble. Okay, it's just not going to happen.
You and me both, brother.
Yeah, but I think that's, at the end of the day, we need to depend on Joshua to guide us in what type of provision he's going to give us and how to do that, and trust in that. So yeah, some of us can do that. Some of us are meant to actually live in the cities so that we can be a witness there. We all can't go out.
Amen. Yeah, I agree.
And into the forest, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's cool. As a matter of fact, there's a very attractive part to that. But not all of us are meant for that, and that's perfectly okay, and we have to be okay with that.
Yeah, I say the same thing. Like, not everyone's called out of a certain church. Like, some people are like, yeah, but they're teaching this, they're teaching that. Other than essentials, sometimes you're called to be the light in that church. Not everyone's called to leave and start your own thing. So I totally agree with you 100%, Michael. I think it's important for people, like, what's God calling you to do? If he's calling you to leave and this is something on your heart, then, follow his lead. But if he's not, don't feel guilty because you're not fleeing to the, to the forest.
Well, that's where prayer, focused daily prayer comes in, and to have the humility to say, Father, I would really love to have, 20 acres over here, blah, 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 but I don't know if that's your will. His will may be that we die in prison, preaching his name. I mean, and I think that, that's why we have to have that focused prayer. It's, your will be done, because he will lead you to the righteous path. And even if it's okay for us to go out and, buy some land and whatever else, as long as we're not, hiding in the cave, becoming a hermit, where we're not preaching the good news, when the good news is, what people really need to hear most at this time. I think that would be the key, because you could preach, you could have a homestead and still be preaching, just depends on your activity and your focus.
Have some extra Bibles too, because you might be surprised. It might get tough to find one of those things, and a lot of people, I would imagine, are going to be desperate to find the Bible.
Yes,
both in print and digital. One of the things when I was a missionary that we were doing in restricted access countries, and these are countries that are locked down. That's why they're called restricted access countries. Typically atheist, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim countries that are very hostile to the gospel. One of the ways that the underground church was working was with like MP3 players. So yeah, MP3 players listen to music, but that just so happens to have a few hundred PDFs on it also. Now that's only going to last so long, and but yeah, it's another way. You know what I mean? Because if they want to get you, they're going to get you. And to Nate's point, I mean, literally every night, right as I'm going to bed, my prayer every night is, Father, give me wisdom and discernment to navigate the days ahead.
Amen.
Because I have no idea what's coming. We could speculate all day long, but pros and cons, good and bad, all that stuff, and try to plan. And I think there's wisdom in planning as much as you can, plan ahead and storing up what you can and all that stuff. But ultimately, look, they could knock your door down and say, okay, we're confiscating your gold, we're taking your weapons, we're taking your food, we're taking your homestead. I mean, you're severely outgunned no matter how much you think you're going to store up. You just are. So ultimately, it's like, Father, help me to hear your voice clearly. Help me to go where you say go. Help me to stay if you say stay. Do whatever. This is the year that I thought, okay, I'm going to start gardening. Right? I'm trying to figure that garden.
It's tough.
105 degrees outside right now. First of all, I've been able to grow okra, which I really, frankly, don't like that much. It's like pulling 4 okra a day off the plants. Yay! She loves okra. Like, yeah. Meanwhile, the birds, the rodents, the bugs, they're getting my water. They're getting my tomatoes. They're getting, everything that I would like to eat. Other than cucumbers, I was able to grow some pretty decent cucumbers. Look, I don't have a green thumb, man. Like, I'm trying. I'm doing what I can. I'm thinking, Father, if this is the solution, I'm screwed.
At least you're honest.
Especially Americans, we're just we're we're just it's unprecedented. That's the word everybody keeps using. In my generation, I never went hardly without a meal. I certainly can tell you there was never a single day in my life where I went without at least 2 meals.
Well, keep this in mind. In Australia, they're not going to allow people at all access to any governmental system as far as support unless you have the vaccine. So keep in mind, I look at it sometimes that quite possibly it's not going to be forced per se. It's just going to be squeezed. You're going to be very squeezed. Yeah, because you're going to be like, you're going to get into a tough time and you're like, here you go. Here's a handout. We gladly help you. You just got to get that vaccine. So I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on people. And if you're kind of somewhat prepared, it might not be so tough, because I'll tell you, it's tough, man, when you get hungry or you go through that. But I think that's kind of what they're looking at doing. I mean, Australia's already said once the vaccine's out, they're cutting off all government programs, welfare, social security, all that stuff. You got to get a vaccine and you can gladly be part of the government system. And you look at the States, how they're talking about universal income and all that. I mean, that would go bye-bye without the vaccine. We all know that would be the case.
Well, they've been doing that for American schools for decades.
Yes, I know.
You cannot be a student in an American school unless you've had your up-to-date vaccinations.
Yep.
So that would just be another step.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, they've talked about that as well, too. I think that's a given. I think we all can agree that going to public school, children, the thing of the past, if you thought you were in a state where you could kind of get by with religious exemptions, those are all going away. I mean, your child will not be able to go to school. Homeschooling is about to go through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
I will say this, and this is where it goes back to, voting on a local level is so important. Here in Ohio, we still have all 3 exemptions. Which are religious, which are philosophical, as well as medical. We still have those.
For the coronavirus vaccine, though. What do you think?
Look, they're fighting that. We have a large group which Nino Vitale and a lot of other people support, which is OMAF, and they fight for the freedoms here in Ohio to continue. And then yes, they are going to be heavily going after the rights for non-mask.
I agree with that. Then your child is probably going to be wearing a mask. And what do you think is going to happen when a child's going to school where they're the outsider, only wearing the mask? And they're the only ones that won't get along. I mean, it's going to be very tough for children. Because I agree with you, Chris. I think that some states possibly could go that route, but they're going to say, you got to wear a mask. Yeah, you got to wear a mask. You're not getting the vaccine, fine, but you're wearing a mask. How's that child going to feel being in a classroom, being the only one wearing a mask? I mean, it's tough enough in school. Forget that. I mean, they'll be bullied. They will be, it will not be good at all. I think down the road, it's going to get quite violent for the people that don't wear the masks. I mean, we haven't seen anything yet as far as the anti-maskers. You think the anti-vaxxers were bad? Wait till what happens when the anti-maskers. It's going to get violent. I do believe that it's going to turn violent.
Let me ask you guys this. I know we're getting close on time. There's a recent video of Antifa, which was dealing over the most recent Wisconsin event, and they were harassing a woman out to eat outside.
Yeah, I watched it.
And you saw that, and they asked her specifically, are you a Christian? So look, we know that there is an agenda here, and look, they're coming directly for us. I mean, look at the fringe part of the faith that we are in. We believe that nothing that this world tells us. We believe that the Earth is flat. We are the fringe of the fringe. We will be the ones
that
will
be. Speak for yourself, Chris. Speak for yourself.
Look, I'm on the bit. Hey, wait a minute. Where are we? Hold on. Okay, yes, I do have Rob Skiba, Robbied Davidson, Nate Wolf, and Michael Solomon here. Yeah, I think I've been good enough.
Yeah, I know. I'm just teasing. Yeah, I just think it's going to get not just politicized. I think it's going to turn very nasty, because they're going to say, look at these guys. They want to get us sick. I mean, I've seen these people yelling at police because they're not wearing masks, and they're saying, you don't care about us. You don't, like, Antifa's in their face screaming at them and saying, you don't care about us, you racist pig, and they're like yelling at them. Yeah, because, and again, they're going to equate it not just not caring, but being hardcore racist. Because again, the blacks are the ones that are suffering the most when it comes to the communities, and so it's going to be another attribution to racism. You watch, it's coming. It's going to be hardcore, but I think it's just going to keep increasing as far as the hatred towards people that will not go along and will not wear the masks.
Yeah. Well, hey, Robbie, I know we're getting. So,
we can always take a couple questions if everyone's good. If someone wants to drop
off, real quick, Michael, I'll let you get to that. What I would like to do, because I know we're 4 minutes, so I'll let Michael continue that. So maybe if we can all just stay for a quick after show.
Yeah.
What I would like for you guys to do is maybe give your 2020, where we're headed, how we're going to overcome this thing, and give some hope and some insight to the listener. And if everybody gives a chance to go over that, I think that would be a great way to end tonight. And I want to thank everybody for being here in the chat room, down to everybody at the conference the whole time. So go ahead, Michael.
Oh shoot, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, as far as Antifa goes and pulling the race card, we have to remember that racism is one of the biggest psyops in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
Okay, because we outnumber the scum elite billions to one, and so they have to keep us separate so that we can't get together and figure out, hey, wait a minute, who's doing this to us? We need to fight them. So racism is a huge psyop. Now, don't get me wrong, racism still exists. Black people are still reduced and marginalized along with American Indians and so forth and so on. But Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with black people, okay? They're simply using that as a vehicle to cause chaos and anarchy. They are a useless, violent organization that needs to be stamped out immediately. And any black person that goes for them is a fool.
Created by a bunch of lesbians, 3 lesbians.
A bunch of lesbians.
Yeah.
Read their About Us page.
Oh, I know.
That tells you the whole thing.
They want to destroy the nuclear family. I mean, it's right on their page. They want to destroy the traditional nuclear family.
Yep. And I keep seeing these black pastors going for them and stuff. These idiots. They do no study, no research, no nothing. And so they're using racism, the psyop of racism, to simply keep us apart. That's all they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't want to spill the beans because my solo lesson isn't up till tomorrow, but I'm going to be kind of addressing some of these types of topics, and just the fact that there's nothing wrong with stocking up on food and ammo and whatever else, especially if your thing is, hey, I'm providing for my family, and I'm also hoping to have some extra for those that are in need, if it comes down to it. But we've got to, I think, moving forward, most of us, if we're being honest, I know there might be a few people out there that resisted the urge, but most of us, we had a knee-jerk reaction in mid-March, okay, when stuff started flying off the shelves, right? I'll be the first to say, yeah, I made a couple extra trips, got a family of 6 here. And but within this last month or so, I've really reflected on that, and not to say that we should, stop providing and stocking up on certain things, but I think we need to start. We need to get our head in the game spiritually, and that needs to be the most important thing moving forward.
Amen.
I know we are right at the top of that hour, so we're probably ready.
We're off Revolution Radio. We're on the YouTube after show, so take your time. I mean, I totally 100% agree with Nate. That is whatever we've said, whatever we've gone through. It is so important to just be 100% on top. With your relationship with Him, asking for His direction, His wisdom, His strength in these times. And regardless, it doesn't matter how dark it gets. I mean, He's there. He's there, and He's going to protect us. He's going to provide for us, all of that. So what I'm saying is sometimes, you can be smart. You can go according to, what He's calling you to do. But ultimately, we really do need to be resting in Him more than ever. Things are going to get crazy. And we also have the Great Commission in these times. People are going to get very fearful and scared and uncertain. Things are going to get rough. We need to have that stability. We need to be the light. We need to be the salt. That is so incredibly important. That's why I look at whatever I'm saying is also, don't just look for yourself. Look that you'll be able to help others. And I'll tell you, when it comes down to when people are hungry or people are struggling, things are going on, and you've been in a position where you can help them. The gospel is incredibly powerful under those means.
Well, I think this is a great chance. Hey, I want everybody back here 8 a.m. tomorrow. Obviously, you guys don't need to be there. But for all you listeners, we're going to start up at 8 a.m. in the morning again. We got a full day.
Did Rob didn't give his...
No, we're not done yet. No, we
sorry.
haven't done
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance right here. Really, give... almost think of it as your running for president speech, and this is your hope to all the listeners, all the people out there, what we can do, how we can overcome, and how we can unify together through the Messiah to not only reach this world, but to have that, spread that hope and that peace in these tough and difficult times. So whoever wants to start, you guys go for it. You can fight over it.
Okay, I'll start. Well, first of all, if I were elected president, I would be assassinated the day after the inauguration. So that would be very bad for me. I do not have a political bone in my body. But my thing with this, Satan is having a power play. This entire mess that's going on with the pandemic hoax, with the and yes, I believe there is a virus and there is something else going on, but there is nothing that has caused the entire world to be crippled. Okay, there's nothing filling the hospitals with the dead and the dying. So that's why I call it a hoax on that level. But with all of this going on, and with Antifa, Black Lives Matters, and the Floyd crap and all the rest of this stuff, this is all a power play of Satan. Okay, and since he's having his power play, we can have ours. Okay, the Holy Spirit can have his power play through us. And that's why we need to really take seriously Matthew 21 verses 21, 22, Mark 11, 22 to 24, which talks about having doubtless faith. Okay, and it really emphasizes doubtless faith, because with that kind of faith, we can show the world who is the true God, who is the true Lord, and who are his true people. And this is an opportunity for us to do that, for us to have that kind of faith so that he can not only show who he is as far as providing for us and we can help others, but gentlemen, I'm talking serious miracles here, okay? Satan is showing his miracles, all right? So the Lord can show his miracles through us. I'm talking biblical size stuff here, okay? So this is a time for God's real people to get our act together, take scripture literally, and show that doubtless faith, and show the world what Yahweh can really do for them.
Amen.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what's the opposite of fear? Hope, right?
Yep.
Love. So what I've seen the most is from the negative, I've seen fear, and I've seen selfishness and hate. So what do we need to be about, moving forward? I believe that we have to be able to share the hope that lies within us. 1 Peter 3:15, and we're going to have opportunity, and not just praying for opportunity, but taking the opportunity. A lot of times we pray for opportunity and he gives it to us and we choke up, right? we chicken out. So we need to ask for boldness to seize those opportunities. But, folks, love is growing cold. So what is going to attract people to the gospel? It's going to be, hey, let me tell you about the hope that I have, even in the midst of all this junk that's going on, and to show people genuine love. That I think that's going to make the difference moving forward.
Yeah. I say we need to, really examine ourselves, like we were talking about Second Chronicles 7:14. But what's starting about that verse is, if my people, which are called by my name, these are his people. And he says, if they would turn from their wicked ways. What that's saying is there is a lot of his people that are still in wickedness, that they truly have not repented from certain sins. And I think we all need to examine our lives and say, hey, if there's certain things that we know are offensive, and we're still in, and we're still doing. This is the time to really, really get purified in that sense and repent, because discipline will come. He disciplines those he loves, and that discipline will just be that much more severe. So it's not about being fearful, it's about taking it serious about what we are doing, what we're called to do. But if we're in wickedness and we haven't repented from that, I don't believe that he is going to call us to be very effective until that is taken out of our life.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in agreement with everything that these guys have said already. When I look at these verses like 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. I wonder what their land means. Their land, like the square footage that they're on, or the entire country. You know what I'm saying? I do think that there's the precedence of their land is in the square footage where they are. Mm-hmm. But I also believe that there's the ability to intercede on behalf of a region, maybe. And if all of us are doing that and praying for our nation, and this is actually, I'm not going to claim to be a Trump fan. There's a lot of things that he does that I think is awesome, and there's a lot of things he does that I think, nope, that's not cool. My hope has never been in a political leader, never. Mm-hmm. But I will say this has actually been the first year that I can say that I've really been fervently praying for my president. Mm-hmm. I think we need to be doing that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And I've become a lot more intentional about it. Now, as far as what do we need to do to survive the days ahead? Well, like I said before, my personal prayer is, Father, give me the wisdom and discernment to navigate the days ahead. Help me to hear your voice clearly. Help me to, lead my family correctly. Help me to do whatever I need to do to survive the days ahead. And my prayer is constantly, Father, A, put me in the game, Coach. I want to be in the game. And B, help me to finish this race well. I want to finish strong. I don't want to be on the sidelines. I want to finish strong. I want to hear well done. And, whatever that looks like. And occupy. What does it mean to occupy till he comes? I don't want to be one of these people that is like, oh, the end of the world is tomorrow, so I just go hide out in a mountain somewhere. No, I want to finish well. I want to occupy until he comes. And when I look at what the world is doing right now, look, everybody knows about my seed project, and sometimes I really question myself, thinking, if tomorrow's the end of the world, what the heck am I doing working on my TV series? Well, look, I know what the calling is in no uncertain terms. I know what he's told me to do. So I've got to do it, and I look at Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and these other guys, they're not stopping production. They're working on season 2 and 3 of Mandalorian, and I'm going, well, what am I doing? They're not stopping. The world, they don't have the ostrich in the sand mentality, nor do they have a defeatist attitude. And they're out there doing their thing. And the other thing I would say to people is turn your TV off and turn your radio off. I was in the car just listening to radio the other day, and they're like, it's like a lottery, or like an auction or something. It's like, hey, 55 dead today from Corona, It's like, they're telling you, like, every other commercial break is a tally on how many people are dying in the local DFW area from COVID. I'm like, this is trauma-based mind control. Turn it off. Yeah, and the TV is the same way. And I've been so much happier. Like, I'm aware of what's going on in the world, but I'm so much happier not watching it. Mm-hmm. Not watching the daily news. Because if you do that, and I got sucked into on social media all the evil that's taking place. Okay, there's the George Floyd thing. Okay, so we understand that. But then there's this family over here. This whole family's wiped out. Nobody's talking about that. And where's the funeral for this person? Where's the funeral for that? And I found myself, I'm not a prejudiced person at all, but I found myself getting very angry, at what's happening. And that's what they want. That's exactly what they want. They want you to get into race baiting and to look at what's happening over here. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just put blinders on and not look at what's going on all around me except for what God has told me to do. I'm going to try to zero in on that. And as it pertains to my needs going ahead, I've had a lot of time in my life, various times, many times, where he was my sole provider. And taking comfort in that. Faith builds upon faith. And I posted in the chat room a little while ago while you guys were talking, 1 Kings chapter 17 verses 2 through 16. Okay, Elijah there, it says, the word of the Lord came to him saying, get away from here and turn eastward and hide by the brook Cherith, which flows into the Jordan. And it will be that you shall drink from that brook, and I have commanded the ravens to feed you there. So he went and did according to the word of the Lord, for he went and stayed by the brook Cherith, which flows into the Jordan. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. And it happened after a while that the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. And then it goes on to the story about this widow that ends up helping him and all that stuff. But I'm saying, like, look, if he can feed the Israelites with manna from the sky, if he can feed Elijah with, ravens bringing him what he needs, what am I worried about? If I'm truly in his ways, if I'm really truly striving to be on his page, come out of Babylon, occupy till it comes, do what he tells me to do, listen to what he's telling me to do, then birds can feed me, even if I can't grow anything but okra in the backyard. I just keep telling myself and reminding myself of those things. And if I could summarize it all, I'm sort of in a Genesis, Exodus, Maccabees mode. Okay.
You
I look at
the obedience came first, then the blessing came. So absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I look at the stories and the callings of people and the precedents set up in the stories that we have in the book of Genesis. Then I look at what led into, Joseph being sold into slavery. We've talked about that, the provision and everything that was provided there that led to the Exodus. And by the way, during the Exodus, the Egyptians gave them their wealth to get them out.
Yeah.
It's like, you're like, get out of here. Here's all our. Like, where do you think all the gold, silver, and everything that was required for the tabernacle? Where do you think all that came from? The wealth of the wicked stored up for the righteous. So I think that there's plenty of precedence in Scripture for all that. And if there's going to be a greater exodus, as Jeremiah 23, and look at Jeremiah 23, Jeremiah 30, Jeremiah 31, Ezekiel 37, the entire book of Hosea, Isaiah 65, 66. These are. What he's going to do is going to be amazing. So I want to be on his page. I want to be following him. Whatever I need can be provided by birds, can fall from the sky, or the wealth of the wicked can be stored up for me and passed on to me, if I'm on his page. And then there's the Maccabees side of it, and I would recommend people read the book, the first and second. It got to a point where like the Romans or the Seleucid Empire, I think it was, they're like, hey, check it out. These guys won't do anything on the Sabbath. Cool, let's wipe them all out. So people aren't doing anything because they feel like, well, I can't do anything on the Sabbath, so they're being slaughtered. And the Maccabees said, yeah, if we keep doing that, we're not going to survive this.
Not going to be a Sabbath.
They started. Well, look, if God's on our side, we'll do okay. If He's not on our side, we did the wrong thing, we're going to get slaughtered anyway. What do we got to lose, right? So they decided to take a stand. And I think there's precedence for that too, frankly. America wouldn't be here if a bunch of people didn't take a stand, right?
It's true.
So, I guess I would summarize it by, getting on God's page as much as we possibly can. Look at that map on the Virtual House Church page. I think there's going to be something to that, frankly. And so, I think we have to be wise. We have to be ready in every way we can to do whatever we need to do, whatever He's called us to do. And in the meantime, occupy until He comes. So there's the spiritual side of it, and at the same time, what has God called you to do? I know I'm supposed to work on seed, so I'm going to work on seed. So that's sort of my take on the whole thing.
Well,
Chris, what about you? You answered the question. We'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, sure. For those of you who know me, this may be a broken record, but I believe this wholeheartedly. When where we're at right now, 2020, it has been the sped up version of where we've been watching this for the last 15 years in the red pill truther community. In this, it's happening. We see it happening so quickly. And as we talked about, having unshakable faith, having all of these things, the things that we've, having no fear.
and not fretting. These are such important things. But what is the message to us right now? I believe, truly, what is the patience or the endurance of the saints, us, whether this deals exactly with the end times or where we're at right now in our daily lives. And I believe that's Revelation 14:12. It says, here is the patience of the saints. Here they are that keep the commandments of God, not by the letter of the law, but by the spirit of the law, and through the faith of Jesus Christ, or the testimony of Jesus Christ. There are so many of us out there who are now wanting to walk in the commandments while we just hand off our faith in the Messiah. And there's so many of you out there, brothers and sisters in the faith, who have the faith and the testimony of Jesus Christ, who could care less about keeping the commandments of God. And I don't tell you keep them in this realm of like the Sadducees or the Pharisees, or do them legalistically. No, they are to be kept in the Spirit, not by the letter, but by the Spirit. This is how we protect ourselves. This is his plan of the endurance in the most difficult times of our faith when it hits in these end days. This is the blueprint of how each and every day we can survive, whether it's 2019 or the crap we've been given in 2020. This is it. To keep the commandments of God through the testimony of Jesus Christ. Let me be very clear. There are two types of people in this world. There are believers and there are unbelievers. And we want to bicker and fight amongst believers about every little detail about what this person believes, what this group believes. This is a flat earth group. That's not a flat earth group. Up there, Torah, you're not... you're a Jesus, you're Yeshua, you're Yahushua. Well, what is wrong with you? Right? Back and forth, fighting. Right? There are two people in this world. There are his people, and there are those lost people. There is the lost, there are the found. And guess what our job is to do? Our job and what we have been granted is to reach this world, to go take on this world. Mm-hmm. Not just to take down their systems, but to reach them. This great commission. And then what are we called to do? We are called to go make disciples. George Moss is not with us this year with the virtual Take on the World. We've been playing some of his music. He has a campaign out right now for Oxen discipleship program, and it's Change Starts With Me. That's where the change starts. It starts right with you. If you want to make a change in this world, it starts with you, and it starts with you as men of your home to clean up your home. Just like we saw with in the Josh Peck's presentation. If 68% of Christian men are involved in heavy porn addiction, which is directly related to child trafficking, which is 1-in-1 correlation, as we've seen, and he's allowed you to not be ignorant any longer within that topic. Mm-hmm. And if you secretly are watching that and not trying to get help, or you're secretly not fighting these things, you are just as guilty and blood on your hand as those that are practicing these things within there. And Christian men, as we know, that we saw in Janet Miller's presentation regarding addiction this morning, showed us that these hotels have come out and said during Christian conferences their pay-per-view for pornography is at the all-time high when Christian conferences roll through their hotels. We are not keeping Revelation 14:12. This is the patience of the saints. If we keep the commandments of God through the testimony of Jesus Christ. Look, we have Liberty University, Jerry Falwell Jr. just having to step down because he was allowing the pool boy to have sex with his wife while he watched. He is leading a group of people, our young people, our people.
Because we're talking, there's only two types. There are believers and there's unbelievers. And he is walking them down a path to this is what is acceptable. This will become the norm. This is how, David Arthur told me. This is what David Arthur told me. David Arthur told me when he was a prostitute having sex with men, it was most of the time they were straight men that were having him pay sex. It was 90%. And out of that, a high majority would be considered Christian men. And he said the number of pastors of churches paying for sex from him, we are failing. And this is a wake-up call. I encourage you guys to go back and watch Ian Chadwick's wake-up call. This is our opportunity, our chance to truly go take on this world. But if we are ineffective as people because we won't do the simple things, which are, and not legalistically, this is to be done in the Spirit, where we walk and keep His commandments, not 5 things, not hey, we just add it, keeping feast days Torah and wearing tzitzits, and come to this Torah club. No, that it is keeping these things. And there's an aspect to all of those things that so many people want to just say, no, that's not for us, and throw that out.
Yeah.
This moment right now is our chance and our time as a people. We're no longer ignorant. We know what it is. It's simple. If we keep the commandments of God through the testimony of Jesus Christ, of what He did on that cross for us, that is what will infect and change the world, whether it be on a large scale or just in our homes and in our lives of our children. This is my challenge for you, and I'm sorry I'm a broken record, but this is how we as people, as His chosen people who are in covenant with Him, can actually go take on this world and reach this world for Him.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, with that said, we're going to be wrapping up the show. We will be starting the Take on the World Saturday replay about 10 minutes after this broadcast. So if you missed some sessions, you're tuning in from different parts of the world, check it out. The entire conference will be playing here in about 10 minutes for day 4. That's Saturday. And we've got tomorrow starting at, would you say 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Chris?
8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, be there. There'll be worship in the morning and a lot of great presentations kicking it off. Gary Arbaugh's got a fantastic end times presentation to kick off the day. And it ends with PD in walking in step with the Spirit. So many presentations happening tomorrow from Nate Wolf, Val Owens, Jake Grant, Jeremiah Dirt, Tom Dunn, Evangelina Baffy, Ty Lamb's second presentation, Henry Hahn, Michael Mize. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Just make sure you guys are there. And, I can't tell you one more thing, is if you can go out and support all the speakers who have made this year possible, go, purchase something from their stores, give them a donation. This is how they continue to do what they're doing. We're okay. We're fine. Don't ask how you can support Take on the World. How you can support Take on the World is by supporting our speakers. And so hopefully you guys will go out there and do that and go thank them. If you've enjoyed their presentation, send them an email, send them a Facebook message, tell them what it meant to them, because sometimes, just like in the case of Rob, just those kind words get them through another day of doing it again.
Mm-hmm. And there's a bonus evening that's been set up now for Monday that you've added now to Take on the World, so that would be 6 days in total. And I believe that is it Rob Skiba that will be closing out?
Yep,
Monday?
Rob Skiba will be closing out Monday night. He starts at 8:40 roughly. We've got Disputed Lands that night. Tony Stover and Nathan Reynolds with a brand new exclusive presentation as well. So Monday's going to be absolutely awesome.
And that starts at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on
Eastern
Monday.
Time, right here, Celebrate Truth. Go nowhere. And so excited. Thank you guys for everything you've done, and thanks for getting on the call tonight.
Yeah, it was great having everyone here, and thanks so much for tuning in. This was a real special panel show, Take on the World 20, episode 78. It was great to have Pastor Nate Wolf back in the house. And Chris had worked pretty hard to say, you got to be part of it. You got to come back. Dave's been super busy with work and lots of different things on his plate, but just a real pleasure to have you back, Nate. It's been a while, and it's fun being in the seat again at Celebrate Truth. So really appreciate Chris taking the hosting position tonight. It's kind of nice to sit back and just answer the questions, and really appreciate everyone out there that tune in to Celebrate Truth. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell icon, and you won't be you'll be always updated about every video. 8 a.m. sharp Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. We've got day 5 of Take on the World, and then Monday it kicks off at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we got 2 more days of amazing presentations. Thanks so much, gentlemen. Thanks for everyone tuning in. Have a good night. Blessings all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Take care.
And we're off.